Hello there, Birdie here with the second live stream for list building. I hope you're all right tonight, and I'm going to start while I'm waiting for other people to join. I'm a couple of minutes early. I got some messages earlier from the couple of people I've got now on Patreon, and they wanted me to discuss a couple of armies. So I'm going to try and just find the message, and I will start with that. If I can find it, that is, which for some reason I can't. How annoying. Here we go. So I'll do this first of all for Clay Pierce. So now one of my subscribers on Patreon. Thanks very much for supporting the time and effort that I'm trying to put into the game. So he had a couple of questions, first of all, which was he's trying to build a 600-point non-shooting Halls of Thranduil list. So I'm going to share my screen. Hopefully you can see that. And we're going to look at Halls of Thranduil, specifically a few questions he had, which was, what's the right cavalry infantry balance for this army at 600 points? Do you take the elk or no elk on Thranduil? Is it worth taking Tauriel or a March captain? And is there a world where Legolas on horse with Orcrist makes sense? So let's have a look into that for him first of all. So we've got Halls of Thranduil is what he wanted. So now I've spoken to quite a few top players in GBHL, and they swear by that Thranduil should only be taken on foot, and I do see their arguments for this. So you take him with the heavy armor, obviously, gets him up to D6. Because he only acts as a banner for everyone else, but and only for warrior models as well, he doesn't banner himself. So if you do have him on the elk, if he's charging, he's got 4 attacks, pretty good. But he doesn't banner himself, and you can't take another banner in the list. So the argument that was made by players that I've spoken to that have used this army have said that if you lose move-offs, there is always a problem, potentially, with him losing the move off, getting charged. He's only 3 attacks. You can very easily fluff with 3 dice, no banner to back it up. And with him being only D6, it's quite easy for him to take some damage. And as your leader, that's not really ideal. So they do say, well, take him on foot. You can put a glaive behind him. You've got guaranteed extra attacks. Every turn, you've always got 4 dice. And you'll be able to banner that space support for him. I totally get that, and it's a very reasonable argument for them to make. However, personally, I'm going to go against that and say I think you do take him with the Great Elk. And I understand and appreciate the comments there saying are good, well-reasoned arguments. But the Great Elk gives you something that the army doesn't have, which is a real damage-dealing potential. If you play him carefully on the elk, you're hitting at strength 5, knockdown, 4 dice, doubling up to 8. You can do a lot of damage, and you need to make sure he's reliable in combat, absolutely, and you don't want to be losing wounds on your leader early on. But I think you take him on the elk because you've got the impact hits, which could allow you in a scenario game to break through your opponent's line in a way they're not expecting. I think it's good to take. You got the 10-inch move, makes him more of a threat. It's a 2-wound mount, which there's not many of in the game, which is really nice. And if you link him up with your actual cavalry and let your infantry kind of do what they're able to do themselves anyway, I think you can make it work. So I get asked about the Palace Guards. So Claire here asked me to discuss, is it worth taking the Palace Guard? I personally think they're a bit of a trap, and I'll tell you why. So the Palace Guard go up to fight 6, which is really nice. And okay, you're likely going to take them with the either Elven Spear or Shield and Elven Spear, in which case you're paying 13 or 14 points for them. It's quite a lot. And the Knight, for instance, you don't take any upgrades on it. It's just a flat 16 points. So I'd imagine most people would take a Palace Guard with a Shield and Elven Spear to make it D6. And you can use that fight 6 in the back line as and where you need it. I think a couple of Palace Guard in every list is useful. Maybe 2 or 3 just to pick and place where you put them. And if Thranduil initially is behind your lines waiting for his moment to strike, then I can see some logic behind taking a few. But personally for me, the Knights make more sense because they get a +1 fight value, so they're also fight 6, just like the Palace Guard. They go up to defense 6 when they're within 6 inches of him, so it's not a really small bubble. So the Palace Guard, they only get it when they're within 3 inches of him. The Elf Knight gets it within 6 inches of him. So you've got a fight 6, defense 6, cavalry, which is incredible. So for just 2 points more, 3 if you were to skimp on the shield, I think you go for the Knight. As in, you definitely take a contingent of Knights. And if you're going to use the Knights to their full potential and be aggressive in how you want to play, and it sounds like Claire has mentioned to me that he'd like to play that way, then I would say you take the Elk, you run the Knights with him, maybe 3 or 4. If you go into 600 points, maybe be careful with that. So let's build one for him. So I would say you want your Elf Warriors on the front, take them with a shield. You can always choose to two-hand with them at the front as well, to go alongside the benefit you also get with Thranduil. Take some Elf Warriors with Glaive behind them, maybe let's say 4 of them, and maybe put in 2 Palace Guard. They're not always going to be perfectly placed with Thranduil within 3 inches of him the whole game, but I think you can afford to put a couple in. And then I would then follow it up with some elves with a bow. So let's get that warband in there first. So that is full warband, 383 points used. So the next question I got was, do you take Tauriel or do you take a Mirkwood Elf Captain or any of the other captains? I would say you always want to go for this Mirkwood Elf Captain because it comes with a glaive. So it's 2 attacks, but it can opt to fight with 3 attacks. So that is a pretty good option. Or Thranduil. Tauriel. Tauriel is 3 might. Gives you a bit of extra shooting threat as well. 3 attacks base, can get more, of course, with the Blade Mistress. I don't know why it's not. Oh, there we go. It wasn't scrolling down for me. There you go. So I would say take Tauriel. I think the Elf Captain, to me, the Mirkwood Elf Captain with the glaive, he is my next choice. Hi there, Dan. Yes, I am. I was on the reserve list, but I actually got a ticket last week, so I am now going to it, 793. I'm assuming you are as well. What are you thinking of taking to it? It's an interesting points level to build towards. I don't know if I'll do a little plug. There's 2 friends of mine from the northeast in Middlesbrough that run their Renown Gaming YouTube channel, and we do a Meta Monday discussion on tournaments that have just passed over the weekend. It's only a short video, normally 20-30 minutes, where we just go through all the different tournaments. And I believe there was a group in Wales that were doing a practice tournament for the 7931 at Borden Brum in November. So it was interesting to see what lists they were considering. But yeah, nice to meet you. Last Alliance is an interesting one. I'd be interested to hear what your hero choices are for that points level. I'm not too sure for me at the minute. I'm waiting on some models arriving. If they do, I think I'm going to be eyeing up a Defenders of Pelennor list with quite a bit of might and the free heroic combats you get. I think I might try running a lot of mid-tier heroes and seeing if the overwhelming might and free combats can suit my playstyle, be quite aggressive. We'll see. I've got a few big tournaments before that to kind of think about. I'm not really thinking too much about that one just yet. So let's do Tauriel's Warband. So again, we want to get some more bows in there because I've not put enough in there really for an elf army. We put all the knights with him, obviously. I think we do want a sentinel, at least one sentinel. It could also be really useful to pull something out of the enemy line to then jump on with Thranduil and the Mirkwood Knights. And then you could always slingshot with a heroic combat into a big target of your enemy, which could catch them out. Ah, cool. Right. Elendil, Eristor, Riv Captain. I think I've seen that quite a bit lately. Oh, actually, Dan, were you in that tournament in Shrewsbury that was practicing? Because I think I remember seeing that list, Elendil, Eristor, and a Riv Captain. Am I right in saying? I think I might have complemented the list, actually. Or have you just got a doppelganger that's using a similar build to you? So let's try... Yeah, it was you. Fantastic. I think I personally gave your list a compliment because I did like the build. Of course, Elendil feels on paper a lot weaker than last edition, and losing the horse was quite big for him. But he's still got a free heroic combat. It's still amazing. All right, he's no longer got the double dice 45 spirit either that he used to have, but I believe he's still resistant to magic. Correct me if I'm wrong. So it's still a good model that if used well, you can still make use of that free heroic combat. Eristor's good value, just a really nice, good named hero. And then the Riv Captain makes sense to get you up the board because you're not really a shooting army. Anyway, just finish this off here because we're on 585 points. That's not ideal, is it? So let's just bring this down. Maybe make it another 2 people just to add into the main shield wall here. And then you can probably max the bows out. So if we look at that, so this is for you, Clay, from the message you sent me before the stream. So 10 bows gives you a nice shooting threat. You've said you didn't want to be a shooting army. I get it. And I'm glad you don't want to be going with Legolas and things like that. I still think there's some good value in running 3 little triangles and maxing out your bows where you can. We could change it a little bit if you really wanted to be super aggressive and go really combat focused. If we maybe drop this down, you can have maybe an extra bow. He could just sit on an objective somewhere. The Sentinel has got a bow as well. Tauriel's got a bow. They'll kind of do their own little thing and get to shoot occasionally. You could move this warband a bit slower, do some shooting on the way in. You can have these 3 that'll sit on an objective for you, something like that, or do a little flanking 3-inch move at a time. And this will be your main little shield wall. And then your big threat is Thranduil and these 3 knights. They're your objective cappers and what have you. Yeah, exactly, Dan. That's right. Yeah, so resistant to magic. Strength 5 as well. It's a Narsil Masterforge 2-hander as well. So you're hitting at strength 7, really. And re-rolling 1s as well with the elf space support. So it should make him pretty reliable. Sadly, if you do the free heroic combat, you can't take your space support with you, obviously. But he's still a big major threat. The only thing you've got as a bit of a problem in that list is all your guys are on foot. I think my friend did submit that perhaps you could take the elf captain mounted. Because I think it's the only hero you can mount in that list. So maybe that'd give you a bit of mobility, because me running Gundabad as an example, I run Gundabad quite a lot. It's one of my favourite armies. The Warbats can really be a problem for someone like Elendil. But there's still ways to play around that. I have come across 1 or 2 clever opponents that have actually played around my tactic. So Anyway, leaving this list behind here, I think that answers everything you wanted there, Claire. I would say at 600 points, this is the sort of list you should build. If you want to go super aggressive from a combat perspective, go with this, or you go with the one I've previously built a minute or two ago. Last thing I'd just add to that would be, if you're going up in points, the next thing I would take would be the Glaive Captain. I have a personal hatred and dislike for Legolas. It changes how you play the game in a more negative way. However good value he is, and he looks like an auto include on paper, I don't want to use him. It's not the way I want the game to be played or how I want to play the game myself. So I would recommend this sort of list. Oxygen, hi there. Good evening. How many Black Dragon Warriors and Cataphracts would you say is a good amount to have in a 700-point Easterling list? Okay, let's have a look for you, shall we? So let's have a look at the Easterlings. So, of course, we want Amder. We want him mounted, absolutely. Did you have any other prerequisites in mind? Was there anything else you really absolutely want including? Because my personal way of building this when I've looked at it is I would build multiple of the Dragon Knights. The fact they're 3 attacks, 4 on the charge, and Amder is a banner for them, and he gives them the... they also apply the fight value increase. It gives you a really good line of hard hitting. All right, they're quite low on fate. Of course, they can die very easily, but I'd save their might purely for make sure you win the combat. But in terms of the faction effects you've got here, where does he say his classes as banner? Maybe it's part of his profile itself, is it? Yeah, here we go. So friendly Eastling models treat him as a banner. So they treat him as a banner. So they're going to essentially the 4 attacks, 5 with the banner. Makes them super reliable when they're charging. And if you come up against any sort of shield wall, you come up against any elves, things like that. Unless you're up against the horrible like fight 6 elves, if they've got guards of the Gladrim Court or something like that, they will really chew through infantry really nicely for you. And that's how I would go for it. In terms of, he said 700 points, so let's build some Black Dragons. So you don't need them on the front line. So you could take Easterlings with Halberd and Shield as your front line and then back them up with the Black Dragons, giving you the fight value. I don't think I'm missing any other key thing that you'd get with having a Black Dragon on the front. Correct me if I'm wrong though, please. So even if we did that, got a banner already, maybe a couple of acolytes as well. I think they are useful behind the lines early on the way in, and then they can be your almost like little flanking troops to jump out from the sides of your formation. In terms of the Cataphracts, though, to answer your question on there, I don't think the Cataphracts are amazing value. The 15 points, it's really nice that they are D6, but hitting at strength 3, yes, they'll knock down infantry. 4 dice is pretty good, but they're not always going to get that opportunity. Big base sizes. They can die relatively easily as well. I know they defend 6, but still, they will die with enough dice into them with the base size, allowing more infantry to get into them. I'm not sure they provide amazing value. I think you want a few. I think you definitely want one with a war drum that allows you to get up the board quickly, especially for scenarios. It's tough. Let's build it. I'll put 2 in at the moment, and we'll see from there. And I'll just build a little more. So they can only take Black Dragon Warriors. Hi, RR. I think you were on my stream last time, weren't you? We can come on to Barad-dûr for you, absolutely, in a few minutes. And Joe Partridge, is the Mirror of Galadriel a 25 trap? Yes, I would say yes. I've done a lot of theory crafting on Lothlorien. I'll come on to that as well for you if you want after this, after RR's Barad-dûr as well. I believe it is a trap because your main heroes that have got a lot of fate, You don't really want them in the fight. If you've got them into the fight, it's a big trap. A big mistake, really. You've done something wrong if they've ended up in combat, or something's gone wrong for you. You've lost multiple bad move-offs, perhaps. And your only fighting-centric heroes are either one Fate in Haldir and Orifin, or you've got Rumil. He's got 2 Fate. If you want to go heavy on the double caster and take Rumil as your 3rd guy, I think you've actually trapped yourself into a very, very defensive build, and you've got no real hitting power. So that would be the only build where I think it justifies taking the mirror. But I don't actually think that's the right way of building it. So I think the mirror is a trap no matter what. It does provide the bonus to priority, but it's your army's not that bad if it goes second anyway, and you've got so many layers you should have in front of your casters. You shouldn't be really needing to fight for priority. They've got plenty of might they can use for calling moves as well. So yeah, let's come on to that in a few minutes. But let's continue with what was asked here from Oxygen. So I'm aware that I'm going to be hindering my warband space, but I don't think we'd be getting that high anyway. So these two together is 12, 27 plus them. We're going to be maxing out about 30 models. It does seem a bit low. Maybe I'll have to drop it for 700 to say we just go with 1 Dragon Knight. If we're going with just 1 Dragon Knight, maybe it's just a captain. What does the Cataphract captain get you out of interest that we're not getting already? I'm assuming it's just his mounted. There's nothing really different there, is there? You got D7, but I'm assuming he can take something anyway, can he? No. Just comes with a Eastling Halberd. He's got no shield. Okay. That sucks a bit. I think I probably would take him like that. A cheap captain. Maybe just for the moves then. For 700, it makes more sense. We need the warband space as well. It saves a bit of points as well. So let's try that. So Easterling Warriors. 4 of them on the front. What else can he take in here? So you can't take any Black Dragons, of course, with him. So I think we'll take all the Black Dragons in here and hope these 2 warbands can kind of link up. He can be the 6th that will go behind there. Just in case the warband did get split, though, you probably want to still give them a bit of a backline. And then we go for... I would take some bows. I would take 3 bows, maybe, just to give you some threat to your opponent. Get 1 Wardrake in there. The only sad thing about the Wardrakes is they only move 6 inches. I think they've been done dirty there. I think they should have been given at least an 8-inch move. I get why they're not a 10-inch move. The dominant 2 can be useful for you. Having a 2-wound model is always quite handy. Hi, Tom. Welcome to the chat. The Venom's useful. You get some wounding, but this slow-acting Venom, if you can get it into the right target, so if that goes into a combat with Amda and you've managed to win the fight, you've got the Elven Blade, you've got the fight 7, you might have had to strike up, you win the fight. If you manage to get, especially if you manage to trap them and you get more strikes from the Wardrake, it's only strength 4, but if you can get just 1 wound through, you can severely, if it's something that you're probably not going to flash kill, it can just make it a lot easier to guarantee you winning the fights going forward. Just say, for instance, you had Amda going up against a Boromir, just because RR here has mentioned Minas Tirith. Similar fight values. He's got 3 attacks, 4 on the charge, depending on the circumstance. If you manage to get the win, the roll-off perhaps that goes in your favour, and you've got the Wardrake in the fight with you, and you manage to do that wound to it, then he's only 2 attacks after that. If you stop him charging and he's not got his horse bonus, then yeah, only 2 attacks. Even if he has loads of might behind him, you can so easily just roll a 1 or a 2 on a 1 and a 2 on 2 dice, and he's having to either burn loads of might just to match you. It just really helps for the long game. I think you've got to. They need to be played well. It's a 20-point model. It's quite expensive for what it is, but I think I would always take 1 in a list. Just I think it is useful. In terms of what else we take here, we've got a little bit of warband space still in his. Kind of ran out for these. Could maybe drop the Acolytes, but then I don't really want to drop the Acolytes. I think we drop a Cataphract, if I'm honest. Could maybe get 2 more Black Dragons in there, maybe another Acolyte as well. that feels pretty decent to me. So let's have a look at this on paper, because I always find once you've made a list, have a look at it like this, and what does it look like to you when you're looking at it? Does it look playable? Does it look viable? Does it look like the warbands can work by themselves, or at least temporarily if they need to? So we look at this here. If you were setting this up and they were by themselves in a Maelstrom game, or Divide and Conquer perhaps. Divide and Conquer, I'd put the Easterling Dragon Knight and the Captain together. Black Dragons would go behind the Easterlings. You've got the higher fight value because they'll be near the Dragon Knight. You've got the little bit of bow threat. You've got the War Drake that can support him in a fight. You've got the Captain that provides you the moves. That will operate by itself quite nicely if needed. Amber, you've got a nice big warband of infantry here. You've got the 3 acolytes that'll sit behind your line. So if anyone tries to wrap you, so I'll break from that point for a second just to say, if I'm playing against any army that's a phalanx or a high fight value army, the best thing and what you want to do against them is to try and isolate them in one-on-one fights where their fight value advantage can't be so prevalent. So if anyone was trying to wrap my shield wall here, you've got these 3 acolytes with 2 attacks each that'd be able to jump out and do damage for you and ensure you're not getting flanked and wrapped. War Drum lets you move up fast, so that could quickly catch up to the warbands. And this Cataphract, really using it for objectives and things like that. What I'd maybe look to do is either in conjunction with the Dragon Knight or with Amber, mid-game, late game, go into a fight, do a heroic combat on something relatively safe that will definitely come off, and you can slingshot this Cataphract away to where it needs to be, and you can do quite a substantial move. If you move, I don't know, 6 to 10 inches to engage your target and then call a combat, Amber can go and do whatever he wants to do as part of the combat, but you could slingshot this Cataphract to go miles away from the battle line to where you need it to be. I've used this strategy many, many times myself for things like Reconnoiter, destroy the supplies. You can just suddenly slingshot them away from your opponent's army. And even if you lose the priority the turn after because they're moving 10 inches, you've likely managed to move them away from being able to be engaged by anything. Really, really useful strategy. So I think at least one of those is useful. And in terms of the bonus as well, I think it said here, Eastling models gain a bonus of +1 to their courage once the army is broken. So that Cataphract is courage 7+, which is only a 58% chance of passing by itself. But when you get the +1, it raises all the way to 72%, which is pretty reliable. Dwarf courage, essentially. It can fail, it can happen, but it's better. It's not bad, is it? It's decent courage for an evil army anyway. And also this army as well, you get the Eastling heroes are fearless once you're broken, which is really nice. So you've got, it's very reliable to stick around later on. So yeah, I think Oxygen, if you're happy with that, mate. Any questions on what I've put on here? That is what I'd maybe recommend for about that 700 point level. 36 models as well is pretty damn good for a very elite force. 7 might just means you're going to have to play the might carefully. It'll feel a bit like an elf list, which is what it should. They are the evil elves. So let's go on to Barad-dûr. So Barad-dûr for RR. Let's have a look. Nice one, Oxygen. Glad you like it. Let me know how you get on with that. Maybe turn up to another stream and let me know. So Barad-dûr. Now, it's not an army I particularly like. I'm going to put that out there straight away. Sauron isn't the most fun to play against. I've not played with him myself, but I imagine it's quite a similar story because you've got such a big points investment into him. You don't want to be using his might to call heroic moves. So what I find is once the line's engaged, he just kind of stands still the whole game. And he's just getting... whenever you play against Barad-dûr, the way to beat Barad-dûr is you just kind of feed him, slow him down, make sure he can't get his 400 points of value, and you just chew through the troops. Decimate the troops. They're low quality. You can really get them off the board really quick. And then whatever you've got left then, which should be more than half your army, hopefully, you just jump on them and absolutely drag Sauron down. Completely surround him, everything in, fully commit. He's not going to get a 6 every time. It could happen. It'd be sad if it did. unless you've got a proper trick to deal with him, like some sort of magic or a bat swarm or something, then that's the way to deal with him. And I've won every game against Barada so far. I think I must have faced it maybe 6 or 7 times, and I don't think I've ever failed to not win by like 15-0, 18-0, 20-0. I don't think it's the greatest army because he's so expensive. He's very, very good for what he does, but he's just slow. He's a bit like, he feels like an ant, if I'm honest. He just kind of, once the glides engage, he's just stuck there. And it's not the most fun to play against. I wouldn't recommend it, but if you really would like to face it, run it. I'm not sure how, if you want to build it for fun, I did see recently somebody won at a 550 point tournament with just these 2 models, which was quite hilarious. But I don't think the Mordor Troll Chieftain's particularly good value. In the Black Gate, the one that gets the upgraded Might, Will and Fate, he's very good value, and it's still nice to have a Fight 8 monster, but when you're investing that much into Sauron, you really can't do that. I think personally I'd want to try and get quite a bit of might into the list. Maybe a secondary Ringwraith could be useful. It's only a Ringwraith with 1 might, but a little bit of casting behind the lines to support Sauron, maybe. But it's not a great list. The Orc Captain is dirt cheap, but he doesn't really provide you much other than 2 might points, really. He's not going to do a great deal for you. The Shaman's got a cheeky transfix. If you really, really need it at a pinch, you could even channel once, but otherwise it's not doing a huge amount for you, other than giving you Fury, which I think might be useful in this list. You might need it. It'd also help if you are going to run a lot of different Mordor captains. You might need a Shaman for Fury, because if you do break, if he's taken some wounds and you do get broken, then you might need them to keep the other heroes around. But again, if he's taken a load of wounds, he's probably done something wrong anyway. And if he's alive, you get this +1. So I've talked myself out of that, so forget the Shaman. Black Númenórean Marshals are expensive, but Fight 5 and D7 is nice. I don't know. Let's try it, shall we? I've not really put much theory crafting into this previously, but I think I'd just spam out the might, if I'm honest. A bit of Fight 4 might be useful. D6 will slow you down. I think the play is you want to make sure that Sauron gets as much time as possible to do as much damage as he can. So the slower the rest of your army can die, the better. So maybe something like that. I actually would take a couple of Black Númenórean Knights. Most people don't like these. I've had a lot of success with them. I really enjoy running them. They've even gone up in value from, gone up in price from 18 to 20 from the last edition. And they don't have as cool a name now. I think they were better as Morgul Knights. But I really enjoy using them. And having Terror on a cavalry model that's D6, I really like it. That is a good point, Alan. I like that. Welcome to the chat, Alan, as well. Nice to see you. Yeah, to free him up potentially if somebody has tagged him off just to try and feed him, it does allow him to get out and do stuff. That is a fair point. Only problem you've got is that Ringwraith only does have 10 will. I believe it's casting the Black Dart on a 5+, and then you've got the Strength 6 hit, which isn't guaranteed. But it's a fair point. Let's try it with that, because I think that is a good call. So let's consider that option. Take a couple of knights in there. I think you definitely want some trackers. Probably 3 in each warband. A drummer would help get the orcs up the board, but then your problem is it doesn't help your Black Númenóreans. It doesn't help Sauron get up the board quicker. Can you take a troll with a drum in this list? I'm assuming you maybe can. Could there be value in a war drum? But then again, we're dropping a lot for what's it really providing you. I think I'm going to go with no. I don't think that's the way to play it. Let's make this a bigger warband, seeing as though we've got the space. Make it 8 and 8. There we go. 21 models. I don't think we need to fill the warband completely. I think I'm all right with that as it is. Don't take any of this on the ring wraith. You don't want it in combat. You don't want to give it a horse. It's an absolute waste of points in this case. Again, I think you want to fully invest in the Black Numenorian front line because you really need to try and help your army die as slow as it can. The one thing I did forget up here, just because I like this in a nice order, I'm just going to add the banner in because I realised I forgot to add a banner. So let's get the 2 knights back in there and the orc trackers. So we're already quite high here, aren't we, in points? Yeah. It's not great on might, this at all. It's not going as I hoped it would. We've taken a lot of Black Numenorians there now. I think we go with a cheap warband here. Try and get it to about, yeah, on the nose if I can there. Maybe drop 1. I don't want to drop the knight, really. Yeah, let's make that a bit of a smaller warband. Let's get this up to 6, and we can maybe take 2 trackers as well. It's not amazing, if I'm honest. 47 models, the fact we've got 12 Black Numenorians in there will make it die slower. You've got Terror, which makes it harder for them to charge. You've got Harbinger and the Ancient Evil. Yeah, you did stump me on this one a bit, mate. Well done. The plan is, as I say, you just need to make sure you're dying as slow as you can. So the Black Numenorians, 47 models will still take them time to drag through. 900 points, most people will have between 50 and 60 models, so you'll be slightly down on that. I think you do want the Black Numenorian Knights to give you the courage if you do go and send them off for an objective. They've got Terror as well, which makes them harder to charge if they're up against like just 1 or 2 models near an objective. Fight 4, hitting power, a lance could be nice. You could put them into combats with Sauron if you can, if you get the opportunity. Could help. Yeah, Sauron is such a huge investment. I've only ended up with 6 might here for you, and considering I think you go with Alan's play, which is you have this ring wraith behind the lines, you don't do any casting with it at all, and you try and use it to free up Sauron so he can cast. You let them go first. You use your Black Numenorian front line to cause them a problem when they do go first, having to charge into the Terror. And then you go second. If something tags Sauron and you get the opportunity to free him up, if things fail Terror checks or only one thing goes into him, you can free him up with a Black Dart. And yeah, just save the captain for the 1 or 2 moves you might want if, just say they're wrapping you and trying to get into your ring wraith to stop that happening. Or if you really want to make sure your Black Numenorian Knights can slingshot out somewhere, you could do a heroic combat somewhere with your Mordor or captain, perhaps. I think that's possibly the best way to go with it. I hope that helps you. You have to let me know how it goes. I don't think you can really run him at the lower points because your army is just so small, and any smart player will just go straight for the troops and just kind of mess him around until they're ready to deal with him. At 550, though, it was very, very interesting that I think it was a GBHL 90 or 100 as well. It was a top event. Somebody won it with Troll Chieftain and Sauron at 550. But I think they must have had some weird, quirky matchups and some weird scenarios for that to work. It should not work. So, and there we go. Even though there's nobody that's going to have an answer to Sauron, really, at 550 points. But that's not the problem. You lose the scenario on the scenario. Anyway, glad that helped. Let's move back to what we had before, which was Joe Partridge. You were talking about the Galadriel Lothlorien mirror list. So let's go to that. I need to get out of this first. That helps. So Lothlorien. Now this one shouldn't stump me as much. I've done a lot of theory crafting with this one previously. So most people try and go for the double caster, and the double caster will shut down most things. However, I don't think it's the way to build it. So you've got resistant to magic on everything in the army, and you just get to re-roll 1s if you're unable to be seen, basically, right? It's not great, is it, that? Galadriel, Celeborn go for, which is these three here. You go for heavy armor, bow. I don't think you need the cloak on him. How would you use it to manage Depths of Moria? Okay, so we're all about the Balrog here, aren't we, in particular? I imagine the Watcher's not as much of a threat for you. So with the mirror, I talked about it earlier, which is you don't need priority in this list, really. I would actually look to go for the Terror bubble, and I'd probably go for 2 Wood Elf Sentinels. I think Celeborn might be a little bit of a trap. He gives you a +1 to wound within 3 inches of him, but you can get +1 to wound by 2-handing anyway. And really, what else is he giving you? Because he's only got a 3-point of will each turn and just 3 in the store. So if you really need to cast something on a high casting value, you can't do that very often with a low amount of will. Okay, you could channel, I get it, but it's not amazing. So Aura of Dismay is pretty useful if you're going to go for the Terror bubble. I don't think she's got Aura of Dismay. No, she doesn't. So he does help with the Terror bubble way of playing. But other than that, Enchant Blades just to help people wound. This list is better at dragging things down with numbers if it's something big. Writhing Vines isn't going to do much for you. Transfix, you've got it on Galadriel anyway, and you're not going to get it on very high casting values anyway unless you get quite lucky. Everything else is not really doing much else for you, and it's quite a lot to be putting into him. I'd be tempted, and we're on about 693 points, aren't we? I think you asked for. Is that right? Just correct me if I remembered that wrong. I'd say, talking about Depths of Moria, the best thing you've got, and one of the most unique rules in the whole game, is you have got Rumil. And he's better now as well to deal with something like the Balrog, because he's got an extra fate point now. So I would be going Hell for Leather. 793 was it? Thank you for correcting me. Of course it is. I'm going to the tournament. Why am I a fool? Yeah, getting a Balrog to reroll, that is what you'd want to do. I would go Hell for Leather to force him into combat with the Balrog and just call heroic defenses. You've got multiple turns you can hold him up. I'd argue perhaps you could get away with not calling the heroic defense first turn if he was by himself, but I think really what I'd try and do is get into the Balrog with Rumil and multiple guys, 2-hand with all of them, and use his Swift Parry. As long as they only get the 1/6, you re-roll that dice, they'd be very, very lucky to get 2 6s from those 5 dice. Yeah, Stormcallers with the call wins, but you've only got 3 will, haven't you? They cast it on a 3, which is nice, but the Balrog's got 10 will and resistant to magic. You'd be lucky to cast it on a high roll. It's not amazing, really, is it? You could also be trying to compel it with Galadriel. So she's got compel on a 3+. That is a pretty good thing to do. She can try and transfix it once it gets into Rumil, if possible, as well. That'd also protect Rumil. I think he's the way to go. So let's build the list. So if I build it with double Sentinel, so I'd put 1 with Rumil, 1 with Galadriel. Let's get some Galadriel warriors. I'd just say as well straight away, Lorien Guard are complete traps. Do not go for Lorien Guard at all. It is absolutely not worth that. So go for the Galadriel warrior. Let's get a nice big warband of them. Definitely want to take everyone with the shields. If they do get into your back line, you've got more D6, which is great. I'd then take some... Well, let's get the banner in there first. So give you a banner to make the bubble as strong as it can be. And then I'd finish her warband with 2 guards of Galadriel Court. We'll do Rumil's next. I'll come back to Haldir. So I think that's your more aggressive warband you want to build. So if we go for I'll do it as 4, and you'll see why in a moment. Let's go for 2 of those with shield and spear, and then give him 2 guards of Gladrim Court. Essentially, they want to be following around Rumil. And then I would take a little triangle of doom, 3 bows. They can do their own little thing, sitting on objective for you at the back, do something on a bit of a flank for you, something like that. Then we come on to Haldir. So I think this is where you want to have your couple of mobility troops. Let's come back to that. So let's put in a couple of guys first. So I would say, again, we want a little bow squad. 3 of them. With the knights, it could be useful having mounted knights. The D6 is also useful because you're paying that much for them. You don't want them to die in a... Yeah. But you're likely to have the shooting advantage in most engagements. And if they're going to be your objective cappers, it could also be useful for them to have the bow. The only thing is as well, it will also make you play a different way because you'll be very, very tempted to just keep moving half with them. But then they're not even moving at infantry speed, they're moving at 5 inches up the flank. It's not as threatening a flank if you do that, but it does give your opponent something to think about if you're shooting from interesting angles out wide. I've seen people play it successfully and cause me problems doing it. So I would take that. Because your army is so slow moving in general, and you want to stay as a bubble, I know they're not amazing because they're only fight 5. They're not like fight 6 cav or anything like that. I'd be inclined to maybe take more of them, knowing that some of them are going to die. We're getting up to a decent model count by doing that. Maybe if I take 3, we've got 12 bows now. Does it get to the point? Not quite right. No. Yeah, just too high, isn't it? What could we change here? 40 models feels pretty good. I think I still want to keep 2 sentinels in there. Drop one of those, we've got 29 points to work with. I suppose you could take 2 with a shield and they can be your more aggressive fast flankers. Go for an extra bow. And let's see what that looks like on paper. So, sorry, I hate that it always does this. It always zooms it in for some reason. So looking at that list, you've got a good ranged threat. 12 bows. They're all kind of split as well, which is really nice. 8 might. It doesn't really matter if you're going second. You've got a striker in there. You've got Rumil to give you the heroic defense. You've got 2 sentinels, one to do some movement shenanigans, one to be a terror bubble for you. Or you can use it as a double terror bubble if they end up being split. You've got the banner in the key warband here with the Guards of Gladrim Court. You could also put the banner into this warband and put the 2 sentinels into this one if you really wanted. I think I'd prefer it this way around. Ideally, you want your army all together anyway. Have 1 elf bow just sat on objective, 3 doing a little flank from this warband. Haldir would be with your main line. And then these Galadrim, you can have 2 doing a bit more of a softer, slower flank, but providing a bit of a ranged threat from interesting angles. And then these 2 can be more aggressive ones with no temptation for you to only move them half. They can fully go for it. I think, yeah, Guards of Gladrim Court in this warband would stick behind Rumil if you could. If you were to face the Balrog Depths of Moria, stay as a bubble as much as you can, of course. Try not to engage their whole line. They move only 5 inches, you move 6. You can use terrain, but also just you don't have to engage them down the middle or symmetrically. Engage just down one part of their line, unless you're playing a scenario. If you're playing Destroy the Supplies, you might as well abandon your supplies and just go all in for theirs. they're going to get something through you. At this sort of points level, they're going to be rocking 60 models. You're going to find it hard to stem that tide. Some are going to get through. You need to make sure you're getting through to them. I'd be looking to use Halday's 3 Might in conjunction with 1 or 2 of these knights into heroic combat where you can slingshot them away from them. The goblins won't be able to keep up with them, won't be able to charge them the turn after. You've got Rumil to go into the Balrog, call heroic defences, try and compel or transfix with Galadriel if you can as well, if you can get one of those through. Might even be worth the odd cheeky channel. Maybe first time you get the chance to engage and you can get Rumil into him. Do a channel with Galadriel. Force the Balrog to either accept it or spend a lot of will. And then, yeah, go in with Rumil. Go in with Haldir if you could, 2-handing. All your elves get into 2-hand on the front and try and get the damage through. I'd go hard into the Balrog. I think that's the play with any list against the Balrog, if I'm honest. You have to deal with it whilst you've still got strength. So you should be going at the Balrog with everything you can in the first few turns of the game. If you just try and avoid it and feed it, it will win over time. It just will. I've tried that strategy and you just can't do it. It moves 8 inches, 3 heroic combats. It won't always be fluffing its combats and you're getting lucky and nothing dies that turn. You need to deal with it. You've got Haldir, Rumil. You can do damage. You can get them to reroll. You can force it to lose fights. You've got loads of elves that can 2-hand. Fully commit to it is my recommendation. Once you've broken it, once you've dealt half its wounds to it, then by all means you can ignore it and go after the goblins. And if you can make them take courage tests, even with their drums, they'll be failing and running, and yeah, it'll be a good time for you. So there we go. So I think that's all the lists people suggested here. I did get one suggestion prior to tonight from, again, one of the Patreon subscribers I've got now, which he was asking about the Grand Army of the South. So if other people have suggestions for lists, pop them in the chat and let me know what you'd like me to look up for you and put together, and we'll discuss it. But just for the moment, Laser Goblin Shark calls himself, sent me a request to do Grand Army of the South. So he really wanted to run Ander, who we have already looked at earlier today. He was also interested in getting the Golden King in there and Dalgamar. Tom, sure, no worries. Welcome to the chat. Rise the Necromancer, 600 to 800 points. Okay, I'll just do this request and then we'll move on to that one absolutely for you. So, what he was looking at, what I was sent here is he wanted 750 points. He's been trying to build in some Black Dragon Warriors, half Trolls, and then some Corsair Reavers. He was very interested in trying to get Corsair Reavers to work. Now, they're a really interesting profile because if it starts more than 6 inches away from a friendly bosun, it must take an intelligence check. Its intelligence is not very good. Its chance of passing is 42%. It's not very good. If the test is passed, all is fine. All is well in the world. Excellent. If it is failed, however, you must choose another friendly model within an inch of it, and it immediately suffers a strength 3 hit. And then after that, it must charge. However, when it does fail this intelligence check, it gets to reroll all fail to wound rolls when making strikes, and gets a bonus of +1. So it's essentially hitting at strength 5 and re-rolling all fails with 2 attacks. And it's a Fight 4 model, which is nice. It's also fearless, which for a frontline model is pretty good. Hello there, Imar. Yes, I've got a big fiefdoms video. I was very, very sad with what Games Workshop did to my beloved fiefdoms. They were my favourite army. Then my favourite painted army. I got a beautiful commission done, and it looks spectacular, if I say so myself. But they're murdered in Imrihill. The rest of the fiefdoms is all right. Forlong, it's sad that he lost his horse. Angbor is much better now. I've really enjoyed Angbor in this edition. I've had some success with him as well. I've managed to podium at a couple of events running him as part of a predominantly fiefdoms list in Defenders of Pelennor. Running pure fiefdoms is a bit harder, but we can definitely come on to that, and I would enjoy talking about that topic. It's I've had a lot of trouble trying to build lists myself. What sort of points level would you be interested to? You've said low points, but maybe give me something to work with, and I'll come back to it. And the Endrin Master, hello, Will. Good evening, sir. Survivors of Lake Town, sure. If we can show off your wonderful Lake Town lists, if you let me know what points level you want me to show the good people. And I'm 500 and 600, sure. We will come on to that. So I'll do this for Laser Goblin Shark. So if you want to get Black Dragons in, I don't think you need all of them to be Black Dragons. Similar to what I did earlier, I would take some normal Eastlings as your front line, and if the die that doesn't feel as bad, you're not paying as much for them. Get yourself then some Black Dragon warriors behind them. Maybe make that 4 and 8. And then other stuff you can take in here. You can get a war drum. The only thing is, I'm just thinking, if you have a war drum in this list, doesn't tell me about the war drum. Is that war drum only for Easterling models? I imagine it would be. Okay, well, 800 points will do it. Can somebody just confirm for me? I might be wrong. But the Easterling Cataphract war drum, I'm assuming it's got the keyword Easterling, right? There's nothing for me to click in here for the war drum. So please just enlighten me. Okay, Mordor list, 6 and 700 points. I can help you there, definitely. Blackgate is good, Minas Morgul is good, Army of the Great Eye is good. I'd say Army of the Great Eye, you want to be at 700 minimum for that one. Minas Morgul and Blackgate, they do work at 600 and lower. I don't think you can make a particular competitive Great Eye list without going to 650 or more. At 600, it really suffers when you're building it. I can show you why in a bit as well. It's an army I've been trying to use lately, and it doesn't work at 600. Anyway, let's come back to that in a moment. So you've got so many options in Grand Army of the South. It's very, very good, fun list. So many options. Golden King's got these crazy rules that everyone loves at the minute. The Half Trolls, he said he wanted some of these including, and some Reavers. The good thing about the Half Trolls is they are defense 6. So what you want to do is really have the Half Trolls next to the Reavers, because even if they take the wounds, then it doesn't matter. But then your problem is, then why do you need the Fight 5 for the Black Dragons? You probably don't. So I'd be inclined to say don't bother with that. Probably just have them as your spear support, but then they're quite an expensive spear support. However, they could also be a hit for the Reavers if you need. If you really wanted to go really heavy on the Reaver build as your game plan here, I think it could work. Could legit work if you build it right. Get a lot of these halberds, maybe. Quite a few of them in there. There's nothing else really you'd want in here. Maybe a couple of acolytes just to protect your flanks. I just like to attack single models. And also, I really like their +2 on this. It means that you've got a 50-50 chance that you'll roll essentially a 6 and be able to keep moving. It gives you a different dimension. I actually think they're quite useful. And they can still get this Fight 5 if you really need them to, and throwing weapons. So I'd take some acolytes, definitely. 6 Half Trolls there. I think you then just want to get some bows in the list, maybe. Watch the kind of hit on a 3, but they're too expensive. Maybe 6 bows in there. Might be worth getting a banner in the list, although Amda would be a banner for Eastling models. So if they're going to be your spear supports, which I think is how you want to run them, yeah, Blackgate's solid, not tier S, you're right. I agree. It's a good solid list. It was better in the first 6 months of the edition. It's not quite as good as it was now. It's a bit like my Birders Horde list that I love. It's noticeably diminished a little, not massively, but it has just noticeably got a little less competitive than it was. Great eye at 700 though, RR. Yes, we'll do that. So let's continue this though. Let's make sure we finish this one off first. He's a banner for the Eastlings. You'd maybe want a second banner to be around the half trolls if you could as well, perhaps. Get some crossbowmen in to complete that warband. It's a weird build, this, but I think you could make it work, especially in scenarios where everything can deploy together. Be a little risky at Maelstrom. I think you'd have to deploy this warband first and force at least one of these two warbands to join it, because you can't afford the Reavers to be taking intelligence checks around each other, because they'll be killing each other on 4s. It'd be a 50-50 chance. You'd have a 42% chance of passing the intelligence check. So that means 58% of the chance you'd be failing, and half the time you'd be killing the model, the Reaver next door. So you'd every Reaver would have a 29% chance of killing someone else. That is not good odds. Every more than 1 in 4 of the times you'd be killing the guy next door. It's not good, really not good. So in terms of points levels, though, he was looking at about 750 points. I've gone all the way to 850 without even realising that I'd done it. So let's lower these Reavers down a bit. Maybe take the half trolls down a little bit as well. We're almost there straight away. We need a little bit of mobility in the list, perhaps. It's got a little decent bow contingent, but they're not. I think just have 3 of those, have 6 of these to give you more threat there. Make that down to 6, perhaps. We're almost there. Drop one of them, perhaps. And we've got 8 points left. You maybe want a raider of some sort. Maybe drop that to 10. And try and get a couple of Haradrim raiders in there, just so you've got some cheap, fast mobility to go and get your scenarios, to get your objectives and stuff. It's important to have some models like that in your list. You can maybe upgrade to something slightly better. There is the Mahud Raiders. I do love a Mahud Raider, but they could work in conjunction with heroic combat off. Candish Horsemen are fight 4, but I think the Raiders are Haradrim Raiders probably better. Yeah, you can't do that. A bow and a war spear, let's do that and take 2 of those. A low model count. I don't think it's the greatest thing in the world there, but I think you could make this work. It's very situational in the scenario, and he's obviously trying to go for quite a fun build. So if you had the 4 half trolls with the Reavers, so what you want to do is have one each. So you want to have a Reaver, then a half troll, Reaver, half troll, Reaver, half troll. It would leave you 1 short, but then with your Eastling Dragon, with your Eastling Warriors behind them that are D6 as well, that will protect them if they do fail a check. Amda gives you a big hitting threat, fantastic leader, Elven Blade, Banner, the lot. Raiders give you a bit of mobility, 3 bows that they can do a little flank, move 3 inches, sit on an objective for you. The Corsair crossbowmen generally want to sit at the back for you. They can do some evil stuff shooting into combat. Golden King's got amazing rules. He's also a banner for you as well, so you've got 2 banners in the list. Delgamar also allows Corsairs to re-roll a dice within 3 inches. He can stand behind the line and be a Mike Caddy, an easy protect as well. But they do take a hit if they fail to win. But it'd give you a fight 5. You know what? I get why he wanted the Dragon Warriors in there, because if they're behind the Reavers, you've got fight 5 with the half trolls and the fight 5 Reavers. So maybe you want to split half and half, perhaps. So we just make a slight adjustment there. Make those just bows. Gives us a couple of extra points to play with. if I change that to 5 of those, can I get black dragons in? Or almost. We'll have to drop an acolyte. Well, there we go. That's it. There we go. So yeah, you want these Easterlings behind the half trolls, and these black dragons behind the reavers. That'll give you 3 dice. You'll have the, even if they fail the intelligence check, they do the strength 3 hit. They're unlikely to kill an Easterling warrior. They definitely won't kill a half troll if it's got more than 1 wound still remaining. You'll be going in with a lot of attacks, a lot of banners and rerolls, and if you win the fight, strength 5, well, strength 3 with a +1 and re-rolling all fails, you're going to do a lot of damage in combat. So it's only 36 models, but you've got a lot of D6. You can protect the Reavers on the way in. You maybe want to do a bit of an avenue formation, multiple avenues, keep your Reavers behind, half trolls at the front with the Eastlings behind, 3 in the ways with then the Reavers behind them. And then when combat engages, you want your Reavers to flood through your avenues and get these Eastlings behind them. 1 acolyte to give you a few little tricks, mobility for objectives, some shooting threat, objective holders. That could work. It could be made to work. It needs to be very well piloted, though, I've got to say. It's not an easy one to run that. So let's go back up here then. So Rise the Necromancer from Tom. So this is 600 to 800 points. Now, I'll just say straight away with Rise the Necromancer, it's not a great list now because it's missing 1 key element, which is Gundabad's. Rise the Necromancer needs Gundabad's. You've got Pits of Dol Guldur with Gundabad's. So why does Rise the Necromancer, that's obviously based at Dol Guldur, not got Gundabad's? It needs Gundabad's. Sauron's profile, Necromancer's been improved loads. He's now 2 attacks. He's got amazing spells, Dominant 5, Spectral Walk, Drain Soul, fantastic spells, cast 2 a turn. He's amazing. And he's gone down in price. They've improved him so many ways, but they've lowered his price. He's brilliant. But your problem with this list is you want as much time as possible to cast and make use of all his spells. But everything in the list dies really easily because all you've got to choose from is Felwargs, D4, Hunter Orc Wag Riders, D4, Hunter Orcs, D4, Giant Spiders, D3, Hunting Spiders, D3, and then his Nazgul. So sadly as well, the Castellans went up in price despite getting worse. So they're now only 10 will. They're still amazing. I still love myself a Castellan. But unless you're playing like 1,000 points, you can't run them like you did last edition where they can basically be your infantry foot troops on the front line. And again, because you don't have a banner in the list and you don't have Gundabad spears in the list, the Castellans are not as good as they were because previously you could go into any front line in the game with fight 5, strength 5, 2 attacks, with a spear support, with a banner. You basically got 4 dice and that would win every attrition shield wall fight in the game. I loved it. It was my go-to at the end of the last edition. But can't do it now. So it's very, very sad. So if we were going for, let's go for 800. He said 600 points, but let's go for 800 if you wanted to make it more of a fun list. If you want to make it as viable as possible, I think the Keeper of the Dungeons is excellent. I'd take him as his own warband. Lingering Shadow gives you little tricks to jump around. And then I think you want to take the Witch King just for his survivability and 3 might that he provides you. That would be my choice of heroes there. And I think the only optimal way to really run this then is to spam out as your numbers. I think it's maybe worth taking a couple of Giant Spiders for the Paralyzed, as much as I hate them. You want a little bit of mobility from some Felwargs. Not in this warband though, perhaps. But yeah, you just got to go with Hunter Orcs. It's not going to be a particularly great looking build of this. This is the way to run it, but I'm already running out of points. It's so bad. Let's go for 1 spider. Let's get these numbers up. You just got to fill your warbands. It's not good for the keeper either because you need things in the way for him so he's not getting shot on the way in. But you're going to get shot either way. So, I've overfilled his warband, but that's just to get some bows in. I might just stick a Felwag in a couple of warbands here and there. This is the way to run it. You just need to swarm them with numbers. I'm taking some with 200 weapons because there's a lot of dwarf lists out there as well. So you want to make sure you're coming prepared. It's only 44 models still there because we've taken the heroes that we have. Maybe I'd need to drop one. I think you either take Witch King or Keeper. You don't take both. Right, let's drop the Keeper in this case, then I'll refill this warband as I would have done it. 6 of them, 6 without, 6 with a 3 with a bow. Can fill this warband out a bit more now. We're almost full there now. Maybe take 1 rider as well. Take 2 riders. Can't take 3. If I decrease something else... Nah, it doesn't quite work, does it? Ah, that's sad. Got 6. I want 8 points left, really. So I think we drop that down to that. Get 2. I say we're only 8 to start with. I'm a fool, aren't I? There we go. $15, $15, $18. But I'll end up short on points. Okay. If I do that, that'll allow me to get another rider in there. There we go. I think that would be the way to run it. Rise Necromancer, you're really not going to do well with it at tournaments because it's just so weak to shooting. The higher points you go, which then allow you to fill your numbers out because of how expensive he is. The big problem then you get is there's a lot more shooting out there. I think that is the way to do it. You've got a good weight of numbers. There's no March in the list though either. I don't think Necromancer has March. You could downgrade to a Hunter Orc Captain, but they're really they're decent, but just not in this list. That's about as good as you can. I did play this at a tournament actually about 2 weeks ago, a friend of mine, and he played it better than I've seen anyone else play it. And this was kind of the build he went with. It was 850 points. He had the Keeper of the Dungeons in it as well. And he was running, I think it was about 46, 48 models. It did help him that we played in a tight terrain board, but he won all the priorities and the move-offs, and it meant that his Hunter Orcs were going in with the 2 dice, and then his Hunter Orc Warg Riders with the 4 dice. The 3 dice. And it was actually doing rather well, and his casting was pretty good as well. I think you still want some Felwags in the list. They can go get objectives. You do want some Warg Riders because potentially you might need some knockdowns to get yourself some guaranteed kills on big stuff if you do a strike up with the Witch King or if Sauron goes into any fights as well. They are expensive and they're not great value, the Warg Riders. They're a bit of a trap, but I think you still want a couple because the knockdown will be useful for you. Giant Spider giving you a paralysed chance. Also, the crazy movement that they can do is useful, and I think you want to take quite a lot of 2-handers just to make sure, because if you lose a fight, you're going to die anyway. You're going to be fishing for 6s a lot of the time anyway, so you need to make sure if you're winning fights, you're doing damage. So I would take a lot of Hunter Orcs with 200 weapons. You can maybe change this up a little bit and get more bows in, and shoot into your own combats and things here and there when it makes sense to, but not a huge fan of that because you're going to kill your own guys quite often. And I know sometimes you want to do that, but it's not amazing. So anyway, leave that one there for Necromancer. I'm sorry, it's not the best or particular competitive list. It's fun. Thanks, I'm glad you appreciate it. Necromancer's amazing. It's so sad. I would love this list and would like to be using it a lot in this edition, but it needs Gundabad's. The list needs Gundabad's. I've actually submitted an FAQ twice asking for Gundabad to be added, and I've not had a response or anything, and it didn't get added in the latest FAQ. So, oh well. Hopefully it will in time. So moving on to the next one, then we've got Imar with the fiefdoms. Okay, let's get on to the fiefdoms. So if we're building it pure, I actually think the best way of building fiefdoms is into Pelennor. There's also one particular guy in Pelennor, Hurin, which I think is extremely useful because he's got heroic resolve and he protects your VPs for your leader. But if we go for pure fiefdoms, I think Imrahil's almost a trap in his own list, which is sad. Because if you're running it at 500 and 600 points, he's 160 points. You want to be taking with a horse and lance, but he doesn't banner himself anymore because it says very clearly here, other friendly Dol Amroth models. Why did they have to write that bit? Why could they not just put Dol Amroth models? He doesn't banner himself, which is sad. And because of how the special rule in the army works, it says if a friendly hero charges into combat, during the fight phase, friendly infantry within 6 that share that keyword, that share both of them, by the way. So it's like Dol Amroth need to charge to give Dol Amroth guys the +1. They get +1 to wound. So Imrahil, if you don't mount him and he charges, he gets +1 to wound. And because you can put men at arms behind him, which I'd say you want to take, you're going to have 5 dice with him, and he's going to be hitting at strength 6, essentially. Strength 4 with a +1. So why would you take him on the horse? But then you've got these beautiful models of mounted knights, and you're really discouraged from actually taking them. I think what you want to do is in his warband, you do want to take some foot knights, the D6, which the list needs. And yeah, he can get them up to fight 5 within 3 inches of him. So let's try 6 first of all. And then we get Forlong, gives you more might. Very, very important. He also gives you the Axemen, which are very, very good as well for extra hitting power. Not that the list needs loads of extra hitting power, if I'm honest. It does hit pretty hard. But it allows us to take some Axemen in this list here. I think optimally, because of how this list works, you probably want to fill it like that. But you are going to be playing as a bubble. It's a really good front line. It's really hard to deal with, but if they get around your sides, you've got a real problem. I personally love running. I build this in quite a lot of my armies when I'm theory crafting. I run Forlong with 12 Axemen. You have this 6 and 6 that support each other. 2-hand on the front. When the wind fights, you got a +2 to wound. Does a lot of damage. Every time you win a fight, you're killing. It's very, very good. And because of Forlong getting you to reroll 1s, you're wounding most things on 3s and 4s, and you're rerolling 1s. So yeah, it's very, very good. They do die quite easily. They only fight 4 D5. They do die, but you're likely doing more damage to them. The only problem you've got here is the only things that provide a banner in this list is Imrahil, and it's only the Dol Amroth models that get it. So really, you kind of pushed into running more men at arms. So I think if you go 8 of them, and then you put these into the fights, I don't know, maybe 6 and 9 like that. Something like that. We're at 580 points. He was asking for 600. I think you'd probably just drop 1 or 2 men at arms and get 2 mounted knights. So you've got something mobile. That's pretty all right for 600 points. You've got 6 might on the board. You've got loads of, you've got the D6 on the front here. You've got 2 heroes that can hit hard. You've got the +1 to wound on the charge. Everything's getting +1 to wound. You've got banners all over the shop. The only things that aren't getting the banner is Forlong and the Axemen, but they should always have a man at arms nearby. You've got fight 5 on a lot of it. That will also help protect your Axemen from losing fights, having the fight 5 men at arms with them. But it's weird that the army then completely relies on the only legacy model in the list. So There we go. At 500, I'd be quite inclined to do fiefdoms without Imrahil. If you do Forlong as the leader, Angbor and Dwin here. Now hear me out with this one. It's going to be a bit of an interesting build, this one. But those 3 heroes haven't cost much for me to get that. Get 12 Axemen in there and a little Black Root Veil contingent to sit on objectives or something like that. Actually, no, these can be supports. We have 2 supports and then one of them can be a banner for you, an actual banner. Then for Angbor, get maybe 4 clansmen with him. Load of Axemen. Not as many as that. I'm a fool. I'll go for 5. I need to make sure I get some archers in here as well. And you have a little archer contingent. Wonder if I can take that off. What do I gain? It feels a bit risky that. I think I'd want at least 2 to protect that banner. Not amazing. Almost want to say, do you want to just sod the banner? Let's say sod the banner. And see what numbers we can get there. Because it might not look amazing on paper, that. But you've got 7 bows that can hit on 3s, hold objectives for you. 35 models that are all fight 4, pretty much except these. You've got +1 to wound on the charge. You've got a lot of hitting power there. Even the Black Root Veil that are usually pathetic in combat, if they're charging, you're getting a +1 to wound. They're essentially strength 5 models. It's pretty good, is that. You've got 7 might in there. You've got a striker in Angbor. He also has Mighty Blow, Fearless as well. Forlong is a good leader for you, provides a warhorn to the list. So these guys become dwarves when it comes to courage and charging. I think that is actually quite a bit harder and more difficult to deal with than perhaps it looks. And you've got a lot of models to swarm lower model count numbers, lower model count armies. You can get on, get objectives. Clansmen have got good courage, even if they've got really weirdly bad intelligence now. Apparently it wasn't a clever decision to wear a kilt in cold weather. So they've only got 8+ intelligence now. But there we go. You've also got a kind of little semi-banner on those where Friendly Lamadon get to re-roll 1s in the dual roll. It's a good model count for not fully elite, but a decently elite army. So hopefully that gives you some food for thought, Imar. Imrahil's the big problem with fiefdoms. They've just ruined his profile completely and made the rest of the fiefdoms pretty unplayable. I think the best thing to do is run it in Defenders of Pelennor and mix it with some Minas Tirith, or get in either Gamling or Halbarad for the 6-inch banner. Don't take Imrahil, take Forlong, take Angbor, take... Is that better for you all? Can you all see it and hear me again? Yeah, you can, yeah. Fantastic. Thank you. I've just had to hotspot my phone instead because my Wi-Fi seems to have suddenly just chosen a fantastic moment to drop out. Great. Thanks for sticking with me there. So, where were we? So we've done the fiefdoms. We've done the... Survivors of Lake Town. Sorry, Will, if you didn't see the final thing. If you didn't hear what I said as well, Will, 793-point tournament called Always Follow Your Nose. It's a GBHL 90. It's in November, middle of November. Your list builds absolutely perfectly to 791 points, and that's a 793-point tournament. So what I'm saying is you should absolutely get yourself a ticket to that event and join me. So let's go back up here. So after we've done that, we were going to talk about the Mordor lists. So Blackgate we were saying was solid. Great Eye at 700. You're more interested to see that one, RR? Let's try that. Oh, wow, Jan. Sorry, you didn't see anything after the fiefdoms. Wow. Sorry, mate. It will be, I believe it was recording on my end here. So if you want to really find out all about Survivors of Lake Town, either message the Endrin Master, Will, or you can watch that little bit back when I release this stream afterwards. But yeah, we're just going to move on to the next one, which is Great Eye at 700. Now, this is a good one. Army of the Great Eye. Now, you have to take a named wraith. Now, an obvious choice is you take Witch King, and he's very, very good profile. However, personally, every time I build this list, I would take Dark Marshal every single time. Multiple reasons. He's also fight 6. The only other wraith that is fight 6. He has a 6-inch banner if you spend a will point. Only affects warriors. It's okay. It's not amazing rule, but it's decent to have. However, this is why you take him. An evil army with an aura of command. It is a 6-inch fearless bubble for himself and everyone in the list, and he casts it on a 3, and it's to exhaustion. It's his own personal, unique spell. Fearless in an evil army, especially one that struggles to have anything with decent courage, is excellent. Really, really good. So I would take him. I'd take him as the leader as well. Try and keep him behind the lines. You do have the options. You could take double ring wraith and take something like Shadow Lord. He could be a leader using his Pall of Darkness to give you a blinding light. But because you want to be building this at higher points levels anyway, you can't keep everyone within 6 of him anyway. So what's the point? Some things are going to get shot at. Now, I would build it with a Razgush. You've got a Bat Swarm as well. That gives you, Dark Marshal does the Aura of Command, gives you a Fearless bubble. That means the Bat Swarm is fearless. That means it can charge any terror-causing model you want. Send him in with Razgush. Razgush has Heroic Strength, call Heroic Strength, and you're at Strength 8, Fight Value 6 against a model that is stuck at Fight Value 5 or lower. He also stops people getting Elven Blade roll-offs and stuff. He's got Hatred Elf and all this good stuff. Also gives you a 12-inch standfast. So if you... just checking, Jan, I've just seen your message. Can you see the screen? Or are you still unable to see it? You can't see it? Oh, okay. Let me just... I've just ended the share. I'll just redo it. How about now? Is that helping? Can you see it now? You can. Great. Thank you. Thanks for flagging that. So, yes, Razgush 12-inch standfast as well. So if you've got things on far-flung objectives and they're not within the 6-inch Fearless bubble of Dark Marshal, he will pass it on to Razgush. Razgush passes Fearless, moves, and then gives you another 12-inch. So between these two, they provide you amazing standfast coverage for all over the board, which is fantastic. Now, if we're going up to 700, you're then looking to take an extra hero. Now, I am absolutely sold that Goroth is the next choice. There is people like Shagrat, for instance, but for an extra 25 points, all you're really getting in is an extra attack, extra wound. Well, Shagrat is strength 5, but stuck at strength 5, whereas Goroth is strength 5 with a +1 to wound. And if you get a spear behind him, you've got a banner. You've got a potential banner if the Great Eye can actually stay nearby you, which it doesn't always. But Goroth also has better survivability potential because he's defense 6 compared to Shagrat's 5. 2 Fate's still decent, but he's got the Come Here Maggot rule, which is pretty nice, and Dominant 2, which is also sneaky in a pinch. So this is maybe how I'd build it. You want some Morannons in his warband. That's your D6. And then we fill that with some normal Mordor Orc spears to back it up. Dark Marshal, we can... I would actually... Now, very, very hot take here, guys. I'm actually thinking go for some Blackguard. There's so many dwarf lists out there, and the defense 7. Having your own fight 4 guy with strength 5, really nice. If you go into dwarf warriors as an example, or dwarf rangers, they're stuck at strength 3. They will need 6s to wound you, but you'll be wounding dwarf rangers on 4s and dwarf warriors on 5s. So you'll actually flip it around, that they'll feel the pain of having to face a dwarf list. I think it's worth having some of them. They're very expensive, and when they die, it hurts. But if you keep them behind this warband on the way in and get them into chosen targets, I think that could work pretty well. Just give them some normal cheap space behind them. I'd also take a couple of Morgul Stalkers, a bit like the Acolytes I mentioned in the Easterling list earlier. Just have them around the back line where they can, anyone tries to flank you, or you can pull them around your opponent's flank to get them. I'd definitely take some Black Numenorian Knights. I really like these. And there is a good argument to take a drummer. It allows you to move up the board quickly towards your opponent. You're not going to win any shooting war, but it's a squishy hero for them to target. So there's also plenty of scenarios now. It's not like previous 6 months where it's always 12-inch or Maelstrom deployment. You've got quite a few ways of deploying in your opponent's face, and then you're not really going to need the drum. So let's put it in. I think it is the right take, but let's see how it builds. So I think you want a couple of Felwargs in this warband with Razgush as well. Give you a bit of cheap mobility. Maybe not 3, maybe 2, something like that. And we've got the D6 of the Morannons. We've got the hitting power of the Blackguard. Now it's a case we want a sort of normal warband. So we'll have some Orcs. And maybe an extra spear for Razgush. It feels pretty low model count, 39 for an army like this, but it's surprisingly more elite than it might look on paper. So you've got quite a lot of fight 4. There's a lot of men armies out there. These Morannons will go up to fight 4. You've got the Blackguard that are already fight 4. You've got the eliteness of 2 Black Numenorian Knights with Terror, with a Harbinger nearby. You've got a drummer to get you around the board quick. If you want to get the numbers up higher, and this is an argument, like a bit of a debate to consider. The drummer lets you move up the board quicker, so you don't get shot as quickly in the games where that matters. But if you don't take it, you get an extra 5 models. Well, you get 4 more models plus him. So if you do get shot and you take 2 or 3 extra casualties on the way in, does it really matter because you've ended up with more numbers? So I'm going to take it out and show you the difference, because I personally don't think it's the right play. I would prefer to have more Orcs. That to me looks a better army because you've got a much more filled out warband here. So you have to let me know what you think of that one. Hopefully, who was it? Sorry, it was RR. There we go. Hopefully you're still watching and that's been helpful for you. I would go for something like that, 700. I think these are the 3 logical choices for me. This is an army I'm looking to personally build myself at the moment. I'm going to be building it like this and taking it to some tournaments. It kind of gives you everything for scenarios. The Bat Swarm, Razgush and Dark Marshal, between the 3 of them, can shut down anything. If you get the chance, whatever big thing you're shutting down, you can put Goroth in there to do the damage. You've got Blackguard that can do the damage. Black Knights with the lances do the damage. Morgul Stalker protects you from behind. You've got Orc Trackers just to threaten the enemy shooting. You've got some D6 to help you on the way in. You've got good numbers. Covers all bases for me. I think that's what you want to go with. So after that, we were talking about, so this is Chris II. I have 18 black dragons, 15 dragon cult acolytes. Can you make me an 800 point list? Struggling as the list is quite restrictive. So you'll have to confirm, Chris, did you mean to do Easterlings, or were you wanting to do Host of the Dragon Emperor? Just get back to me and let me know which of those you're wanting to do. For you, Jan, you're the next one on here I've got, which is what do you think of the army of Edoras? At 800 points, Helm, Friolaf, and some Rohan warriors. So army of Edoras. So let's just remind myself. So once at the start of any fight phase, once in the game, general can use this rule if they've charged. If they do, friendly Rohan models within 12 inches reroll all fail. So you get one turn with a lot of extra damage, hopefully. And when a Rohan hero charges until the end of the turn, anyone within 6 inches of them are fearless. That's a really nice rule. Now, Helm himself, let's just check this out. Free heroic combat each turn for free. Amazing. Always great to see that, especially on a mounted model like him. Can never be unarmed, expert rider, burly, two-handed weapon as well. So you're always going to be two-handing. So you're hitting at strength 7 with him at all times, basically. That is excellent. And then Horn of the Hammerhand, once per game. All enemy models get a -1. That could be really useful if used correctly. At the start of any move phase, you're going first or second. So if you're going second, you can still call it for them and hopefully make some extra guys run away. Horse Lord on him as well. He's got the fate points. Definitely take Helm in that list, 100%. In terms of, he's only 2 might, which is sad. Heroic defense is nice, and he still fights 6 even if he doesn't have strike. But really, you're only getting the main use out of him if you're taking Hera as well, because you're getting a 4+ Master of Battle for free. You're not like paying any points for it. It's just you need to take her in the list. And any warriors can be upgraded and they gain the shield walls. They become D6, which is nice. So I don't think I'd take him mounted. I'd be... I don't know. It does say as well, does he get shield wall? He doesn't, does he? They gain the shield wall. Doesn't say he does. So maybe you don't want him as part of the... He's got a lot of fate, so it probably makes sense to mount him. So let's try it mounted. So with him, you want him to have the shield wall front line. And you probably want a banner in there as well. Let's make it a full warband like that. We'd go with some Royal Guard with him. The problem you've got is throwing spears, because you need them to be your back line. But then they're going to hit the throwing spear limit very, very quickly. It's a very difficult one to build. We'll have to do Royal Guard without throwing spears, which is not ideal, really. But they are good. They're still bodyguarded and fight 5 on the charge. So, very nice. Now, what points level were we talking about? It was 800, wasn't it? So, I don't think Hera is great in this list. If there's only a single model on either side and there's no space support, she gets to go to 3 attacks. But how often are you really going to get that? Not great. What does it? Does a share do anything for it? It's a 12-inch horse, but only if she's not charging. It's useful, but not phenomenal. And she's only fight 5. She can strike and defense, which is good. She's got 3 fate. She's quite survivable. It is 3 might as well. But I'd be inclined to just take her on foot, because does it require her to be alive as well, whilst within 6 inches of her? So if they are going to stay together and give you a master of battle, maybe you don't want to take him on the horse. I'm interested to look at Leaf again. So I'm almost making this as a bit more of an infantry Rohan army, which I think might be the way to go with this one, but I'm going to hit this throwing weapon problem constantly. So maybe take some riders as well, just to try and thin it out. So look at that there. That looks pretty good to me. Can you get Leaf in here? It's a minor hero. He's not an independent. So let's take those 2 riders with him, just so he's got something else in his warband with him. But Leaf behind the lines, looking at this here. Model wearing light armor gets defense excellent. Yeah, orders from there. So he can spend a will point. He's got 5 of them. He's got heroic defense as well if he gets into problem. If he does, pick one, but he can only choose it once per game. So once per game, you can get everyone to declare heroic combat. So if you keep them all together on the way in, and then you declare this when they're all within 3 inches of him, you can get 3 of them to pull off heroic combat. Very good. Fearless, kind of useful, but you've already got a special rule that kind of gets rid of that. You don't really need it. Woodland creatures, not amazing. They get a better move value. Could be useful for the first turn of engagement if you time that right and set it up correctly. And may re-roll fail to hits when shooting. It's probably not the way to go, if I'm honest, looking at that. I think you want to get more riders in there. Maybe drop a warrior somewhere. Drop one of those, and that can maybe get me another rider. I think something like that would work relatively well, but 800 points is so many better lists. Helm is such a big threat in this list. He's only fight 6 though, but does have strike. Free heroic combat though, you're going to do a lot of damage. You're not really going to have the shooting advantage unless you invest more heavily into the riders. Probably could do that considering Royal Guard aren't taking throwing spears anyway. So could probably try and max out the warbands. Not quite working, is it? Because I'm not really gaining many points. I'm not getting enough to get an extra guy, which is sad. I've now got 10 bows, which is kind of useful. I wonder if I can upgrade them to get throwing spears. Not all of them. I'll be hitting that limit. Oh, they all need horses, don't they? Oops, didn't mean to get rid of that. 44 models. 10 bows, 13 throwing weapons, but predominantly using that as your spear line. So you can get up to your opponent. Don't think there's any march in the list though, there, is there? No, she's got resolve. Now that is nice, she's got resolve, that she could use her might and frail afters as well, but he's only got 2, so you maybe don't want to use it for that. But she could stay behind the line relatively safe, doing heroic resolves for Hammerhand to make sure he's going off. He's what the list is going to be relying on. He's the crux of the list. Anyway, there we go. That's my thoughts on it. I think that's probably kind of where you want to go with it. Freylaf giving them the D6 is really nice. It does make quite a big difference, and it's an automatic upgrade. It doesn't have to be nearby them or anything like that for it either. That is pretty damn good. I think the list still lacks something a bit. I've gone for a decent model count, not just the standard Rohan, get everything mounted. I think Halath is also very good. You could go quite hero heavy with this and go a complete opposite way for building it. But I do like you trying to build an infantry-based Rohan force. I think it can be done. I think it's a relatively well-balanced list, this. Could maybe try and max the bows a bit more, make it a bit more competitive. Anyway, hope that helps you there. Thanks for the suggestion, Jan. So, Imar, right, I've just seen you've got on here. How would you approach 800-point Easterling list with Carmel? Right. Jan, okay. Just before I come on to that, Imar, I'll just answer Jan here. So how would you build it in the best way? Best way, 800 points, if you give me complete free reign. Okay. Because personally, I prefer quite balanced lists. I'm not one for all cavalry armies. I think, especially all cavalry armies, they rely too much on winning move-offs. I'd prefer to try and... So heroic resolve, I'm asked, because it does apply to this army as well, to answer your question, Jan, about what's the best way to build this. If you have a hero in your army that is extremely reliable at killing for you, a lot of your battle plan relies or wants him to do a lot of heavy lifting for you. If they're relatively, even if they're relatively survivable, there might be like Helm Hammerhand here. He's only got 3 will. Magic list or a shutdown list, having a cheap hero nearby that can just call a heroic resolve, it's slept on. Not many people use heroic resolve, but example for you, what I was on about before with fiefdoms with Imrahil. Imrahil is 7. He's got a lance, does a lot of damage. You want him to be getting involved in the action for you, but he's only got 3 will. And he is the only person in the fiefdoms that has heroic resolve, and you don't want to be wasting his might on it. So if you take Hurin the Tall, you take him mounted, he can keep up with Imrahil, protects him from giving away VPs for your leader, and he's got heroic resolve and 3 might. You come up against a heavy magic list, and there's a turn where you really need your hero to do something. Call a heroic resolve. And it's the same with this list. It's fantastic, actually. It's probably the best thing about this list that I've seen, that multiple of the small heroes have heroic resolve. Even Olwyn has it. Olwyn has heroic resolve. Even Haleth has it as well. So, yeah, it's a bit of a slept-on one. So let's have a look how I'd do this if it was like complete free reign. Ideal list. Because I think Haleth is very good in this list as well. All right, he's a little less survivable because he's only D6 and he's only got the 1 fate, but 3 wounds is still pretty good. He's got fight 6 as well, and if he's outnumbered, he can re-roll all fail to him. So really, you just want to get him stuck in charging. He needs a banner nearby, which is a bit of a problem. And his throwing spears don't count towards. I don't think hero throwing weapons count towards you this, or maybe it does, we'll see. Hammer's rubbish. Don't go near hammer. I like the idea of Freylaf making it a more balanced list, but I don't think he's great value. If he was 3 might, I would, but I don't like the 2 might. But then the Master of Battle will be nice, but then you've got a free might point on Helm Hammerhand anyway, so I don't think you need that either. I don't think Hera's particularly good value either, but she does have a cheap resolve for you, but then Olwyn's arguably better than her. What difference are we really getting? You're losing a might point, but Olwyn's got 3 attacks always. And if she's outnumbered in combat, she'll always be required to be wounding on 6s. So if you go first, Helm Hammerhand calls a move. Sorry, it's a free combat he gets for free, isn't it? It's not Mighty Hero anymore. That was last edition. Apologies. Maybe Freylaf is actually a good shout for that Master of Battle. Now I'm thinking of it. I don't think Leaf's worth it. I think maybe those 3 heroes are the way to go then, perhaps. It's just a pity you have to take Hera over Alwyn, because she would be really good. You just throw her into multiple frontline troops, and if she loses, you don't really care. She's unlikely to die, and if she wins, she's got 3 attacks plus a spare support she should have. I might end up back at that same list, you know, Jan. Let's have a look, because I have seen you could go all hero with it, because Halath is good. Alwyn with a horse would be 4 attacks on the charge, and she can only, but again, a horse could be taken out quite easily. But you've got Horse Lord. So you're at 625 with them now. So I don't know if we'll ever get a tournament of this points level. I'd say that might be your ideal army. But it's 775. 7 models is the perfect amount if you're going to do an all hero list, because it means that they've got to kill 4 of your 7 heroes to break you, and they've got to quarter you. They have to kill all but 1 of them. You have to have 1 model left on the board. This would have 17 might on the board. You'd have Helm Hammerhead bouncing around with his free combats. You've got Master of Battle on Freelaf when he's near Hera. You keep them 2 together. Halath's re-rolling failed wounds. She's killing any infantry, charging in 4 dice with knockdowns. And you've got 2 captains for heroic moves and the D7 as well. That is probably your ideal army of Adoras. That would be very, very difficult to deal with. I would be much more scared of facing that than the 800.44 model list that I sent you, that I did for you a few minutes ago. But it's not as balanced. There is some scenarios it would just lose, but you'd have a lot of fun with it. It would do well. You'd win. You definitely win some games with it, but it's not the most balanced. If you actually want to try and win an event, I think it is these 3. Get rid of those horses. It would require you to pilot it well, is what I'm going to say. There is another option for you, you know, just now strategy crafting more than list building. You could always build a very asymmetric build where you actually go heavy on shields. And they're only there to get in the way. You're not even trying to win fights or do work, because realistically, right, they're only strength 3 and fight 3. You're not winning many fights. And even if you win fights, strength 3 isn't going to do many wounds. So why not spam out the troops? Give them shields, the D5. They're very cheap as well. You're only paying 7 points for them. Get yourself a couple of bows in there. Let's get a... I'll maybe just give you a couple of spears just so you've got something to go with the banner, because I do think... Can you take a banner on the mounted models? I'm assuming you probably can. You can. No, bugger that. We'd do it, give it to a mounted one. Right, get rid of that. Something like that initially. And then this is the warband that would go hard, and I'd take both the heroes then on a horse. And then we get the throwing weapons where you want the throwing weapons. Maybe 8 of them, and get yourself a load of riders with throwing. Probably going to max throwing space. I'll add those on in a... Let's do 5, 6 of them with throwing spares. Let's see if that works. And then 1 with a banner. Right, let's knock off a couple of throwing spears. Now that could be a pretty terrifying list, because it's your mounted models going in with a throwing weapon, so you'll feel them more. I think we could still optimize that a little more. Let me just make that change a little bit, because realistically, you're wanting to keep your heroes relatively together. These are just there to get in the way. Legit, like just there to get in the way, just cause problem. I think if we can drop your model count by 1, see if we can get more. They go to fight 5, so let's get more of them in. Too many throwing weapons there. Well, it would have almost been perfect, that. Too many throwing weapons. How sad. We could just have 1 Royal Guard without one. We're now at 9 bows, though. Yeah. I think you do want to be able to skirt a bit as well. So let's try some without bows. Not ideal. Let's drop them down. Nearly there. Look at that. We're almost perfect. We're getting there. They are fight 5, though. I suppose you don't want to completely lose them. We're at 15 bows. I don't want to give you too many of these. Might even take that away, you know, and put 3 of them in like that. Six. That goes too high on the throwing spears. This is always the problem with the throwing spears, isn't it? Evening, Aidan. Hunsler, how are you doing? Nice you could join us. So, I'm trying to get these 2 as high as I can do for you. I think we just want slight more bows than we have. So maybe I will stick to... Not in his warband. We want all of his Harrowdale ones. I think we put them in her warband. So if we try that... Still need to make an adjustment up here though somewhere. So we're at 15 bows, 14 throwing weapons. I think that is the way to go. So if we just do that. I think that's the one for you there, mate. What do you think of that, Jan? That would give you 8 might, 4+ Master of Battle, 3 really big hitting heroes. You've got the 3 combats going off here. It's these 24 Rohan, especially the D6 ones, they're just there to get in the way. They're just there to hold up your opponent, plug holes, stop them from going, flanking you, surrounding your troops. They're just there to survive and get in the way as long as possible. They're realistically not going to do the damage for you anyway. Your damage is going to come from this and your heroes. So they're just buying time for your heroes. A couple of bows on foot to sit on an objective and threaten your opponent, just cheap objective cappers in a little triangle of doom. And then, yeah, fight 5 coming in here along with your 3 big heroes. Got a banner as well, which is necessary. I think that could be the optimal way to run Army of Edoras for competitively, but you need to accept how you're going to play it. That would be my way of playing it, which is use these warriors just to get in the way, honestly. Shielding every time, just shielding every time. Don't even keep the banner near them. Like, you can if you get the opportunity, of course, if everything's kind of together, but don't be afraid to just use them to get in the way. They're just going to get in the way for you. Not all mounted, no. I did provide a list for Jan a few minutes ago, which was 7 heroes, which was 775, and it was 7 heroes. That's it. That's the list. And that is the optimal way of running it as well, I think. This is me being a little quirky and trying to produce a more balanced mix of infantry and cavalry, because I prefer to play that way, but Rohan are only fight 3, strength 3. They're not going to do any damage. So why are you investing your money into giving them spear supports that's then reducing where you've got your throwing weapons? You want your throwing weapons on the things that are going to be charging as your cavalry and can skirt your opponent and skirmish with them. You don't want them as your spear supports in your infantry line. So why bother? Why not just take loads of shield guys? And these ones are D6 anyway, with Freylaf's rules. So Yeah, try that, mate. Let me know how you get on. I'd be really interested to see that. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, all mounted. Just depends too much on priority and heroic moves. You can do clever counter charges. You can always leave yourself a little reserve force with cavalry. Like, never fully charge everyone in. Try and keep at least maybe 3 or 4 more than 6 inches away from your opponent's infantry and ability to charge you if they win a priority or move off. So you've still got some opportunity to counter charge the next turn. Hunsler here, that's just joined us, is an exceptionally good cavalry player, probably the best cavalry player I've faced in this game. And he does that. And he's one of the few players that uses all cavalry armies that has had success against me. It's one of the things that I think I'm particularly well suited to dealing with, and I usually will get high scoreline victories against them. Hunsler here is my Achilles heel in that regard. A very, very good player. And that's the trick with cavalry. You want to make sure you've got a contingency plan if you're going to go all cavalry. This will allow you to play with a little less contingency. You can be a bit more aggressive with it, which is kind of how I'd like it. Yeah, it gives you the numbers. There you go. So we were going to look at Easterlings for you now, weren't we, Imar? So let's move on to that. So Easterlings with Carmel, and that is the only prerequisites you've said there. So you have to take Ander, of course, get him on his horse, absolutely. Now, if we just look at Carmel's profile for a minute, he's not amazing value. No worries, Hayden. Yeah, you're welcome to the compliments. You deserve them. You always give me a great challenge when we play. So it's yeah, you're one of the best at using Cav, I'd say, 100%. Carmel here. Blade Wrath is nice. It only gets you up to strength 6, but it's still a nice thing to have. You can also apply it to other heroes, so you could apply it to Ander, for instance. However, Ander can two-hand if you need anyway, because it's an elven hand and a half. So I don't know really what you're going to be using Blade Wrath on that's going to be amazing for you. That's his unique spell. All his other spells aren't particularly great because he's not casting them on particularly high values. He only starts with 12 will as well, compared to the 14 will of the others or more. And then he does get to get a will point back for every time he slays an enemy model, but in combat he's not really going to do that much. He's on horse. You can get 2 attacks on the charge and give him an extra 1 with his the second part of this rule here. But it's not amazing. You can increase his fight value up to 6, and then he has got heroic strike. It's not amazing. I think if you are going to take him, you are going to take him on horse, because you are going to need to be trying to pick and choose some favourable combats for him. But depends what sort of... you said 800 points. So we're investing a lot into these two. That's 310. I'd really love to say go for the Dragon Knight, but I don't think you can at this point, because you're going to need some heroic moves. So you might need to just take 2 cheap captains. We're at 430, then it leaves you a decent amount of points to go for other stuff. So considering he's going to be the only source of black dragons, you're going to need to take black dragons with him. So go with the... Personally, I want to two-hand on the front, especially if I've got halberds and so many dice in the fight. So I would be inclined to just take basically all of them. Take 3 bows, little triangles of doom again, just to hold objectives and be a bit of a threat to your opponent. Maybe take a war drake as well. I might just copy that exact warband. There we go. And over here, although we're at 684 now, aren't we already? So I might need to reduce that just so we can put something in Carmel's warband as well. Maybe not a war drake each. We'll maybe just put 1 in somewhere. So we'll do that as the 2 there. He can take Dragon Cult Acolytes, which is nice. So let's take some of them. Maybe take 4 Dragon Cult Acolytes as well. And let's get the Cataphract with the War Drum. And then his, I think we just want the Black Dragons. But there's not... Yeah, I'm going to have to reduce this down, aren't I? But these warbands then are getting a bit small. I'm probably going to need to drop a captain, but then you're going to be low on might. You're just going to have to accept it, I think. Because you want as many of these Black Dragons as we can get, really, in the list. I think we'll take one War Drake. The Black Dragons are what's giving you the fight 5, so you need to take a load of them. And then just fill this warband up, really. I think I'd go for some more acolytes there. Maybe get in one Cataphract that can slingshot somewhere. And then an extra Easterling. So I think I'd be pretty comfortable with that. It's probably about as good as you can get. I'd be tempted to drop a couple of the Black Dragons here and get a couple more acolytes just to give you some more throwing weapons to come around the side to be a bit of a flank if somebody tries to. Yeah, let's do that. I think just 14 seems a lot. Like, they're only going to get the bonus when they're within 3 inches of him anyway. So you're not going to get that many within that distance of him anyway. So let's reduce those out and get some more acolytes. I really like the acolytes just for the throwing weapons. So you know what? I'm going to go all in on that train of thought. Ideally, you want to have these Easterlings and these Easterlings as your front line. You want these Black Dragons behind them. You use him as the banner and the fight value. The War Drum gets you up the board quickly. The War Drake can just be used, as I've mentioned earlier in this video, with Ander to try and take out key targets, or at least reduce their effectiveness later in the game. Your acolytes, keep them behind your lines with minimum 2, if not 3 in the ways on the way in. And then they can come out from the flanks on either side or one side in one big overcommitment. They'll do the damage, throwing weapons, cause your opponent problems. That'll sit him on objective. He can slingshot off a heroic combat. You just got to be careful. You've only got 7 might, which is again why I'd keep the acolytes. Set up your line so you're prepared to go second, and then have your acolytes as your reserve force if they try and wrap you. That's the way I'd do it. Hopefully, are you happy with that? That helps you. But yeah, I think you can make it work. I think that list here that I built here, this could do relatively well at an event. I think if it piloted well and didn't get some horrendously unfavourable matchups, this could podium at an event, definitely at GBHL. 80 and 90, maybe hundreds it'd struggle, but 80s and 90s, I think that could do all right. What are the comments here? I'm just going to have a quick look. You've just missed a few here. So you thought about using him in the centre of the phalanx on foot, giving him 3 attacks. So yeah, 2 attacks for Carmel and then 1 for a spade. Oh, well, you could give him 2 pike supports, couldn't you, actually? So you could have Carmel on the front with his extra attack and then 2 friends. But then you're not really making much use of his casting either, are you? You'd be relying on move-offs and you. Yeah, it's a pity they took the Felby. I think this could work, and also he gives you an extra mobile piece here, which is good. So him and Ander, you can if his will gets too low near the end of the game, you can also use it to slingshot into an objective or something like that as well. Anyway, there we go. I think I've caught up with everyone's requests here. Yeah, you would potentially risk trapping him, I imagine. Yeah, he doesn't have phalanx. But you can position with pike blocks, you can position in a way, if you don't quite have the pikes lined up perfectly vertically behind the shields, you can have them in almost like an arrow formation, and you can have at least one fight that can untrap itself without, can back away with just one model and not trap itself. Because Dolamroth, of course, they don't have phalanx, they can trap themselves very, very easily. But the trick is how you deploy them and engage with them. You can always have at least one. So when I use Angbon chieftains, he always wants 2 men at arms behind him, but it's very, very easy for him to get trapped. But if you deploy in such a way, slightly diagonal with them, you can always back away with one and not be trapped and still get the pike supports all down the line. You just have to beware of those pikes then getting flanked. It's very, very easy for them to be flanked. Yeah. So that's where you want your counter forces, your reserves. I think whenever you do, I need to do a YouTube video on this about tactics, but reserve forces are extremely important. Like if you look at any battle in history, almost always the key moment of the battle has come when reserves have come into play and joined the fray. They've looked at where they're most needed and where they can have the biggest impact. So there we go. So reserve forces in Middle-earth are very, very good. So like I mentioned with the Dragon Cult Acolytes here, if you did deploy in that way and had a bit of like an arrow wedge, you could then have your Acolytes on the right and left-hand side at the edge of the wedge, and they would be able to wrap around and stop your pikes being picked off. Even if they get peeled off and your front line is a bit more exposed and trapped, and they've got priority, they can still shield. There's a decent chance they'll survive. Some of them will die, but they'll be okay. But then all the things that wrapped into your spear supports to try and peel them off, your Dragon Cult Acolytes will come in, and you will absolutely massacre both those 2 flanking forces that have come in on you. So with just sheer weight of dice and attacks, and you'll trap them back. So yeah, definitely work. Anyway, Corey, hello, nice to meet you, and thank you for joining the session. We've just finished with one actually, so you've timed that perfectly. And Calm Dumb is one that I'm always eager to have a look at. It's one I'm going to be building myself. I've got it on commission at the moment. It's probably going to be early next year before I get to use it, if not maybe middle of next year. But and then Jan by all means will come on to Iron Hills, Mirren and Dra. Are you on about their expedition, or are you on about using Mirren and Dra in the Iron Hills? But yes, looking at Kandum to remind everyone here. So if a Kandum hero slays 1 or more enemy models in combat, for the duration of the following turn, they get +1 fight value. So your captains of Kandum are fight 4, they'd go up to fight 5, but the big one is Aldrak would go up to fight 7. Lovely. You also have 6-inch banners in this list, which is phenomenal. I'm not a major fan of the 3-inch banners. 6-inch banners are very, very good. Very, very useful and cost effective. And then additionally, friendly warrior models gain a +1 bonus to the fight value in a turn in which they charge, which means that the hill trolls you can take in this list are warriors. They would be fight 7. And they still get their reroll as well for brutish cunning. If you've got one of your 6-inch banners nearby, you've got a 5-attack troll at fight 7 that you're only paying 75 points for. It makes them very, very reliable. Corey, though, tell me, what points level were you looking at building for Kandum? Just while Corey is getting back to me there, we'll just quickly discuss Frecht as well. Only 4 will. He doesn't actually cast anything. He's got a 1.5 weapon, which is quite cool because he's strength 4. So if you actually get him into a relatively safe fight with Aldrak, for instance, if you really want to guarantee some damage, if you know you're going to win the fight, you can outstrike your opponent, that sort of thing. Sending him in and 2-handing with him, he's going to be hitting at strength 6, essentially. He's also got heroic resolve, so you could save his might point to call a resolve if people try and target Aldrak. So you can have 1 turn where Aldrak can't be touched, which is really nice as well. But then his incantations of power. Friendly Kandum models can reroll wounds. Yeah, not a big fan of that. It's not great. Whenever a friendly model Kandum suffers a wound, roll a d6 on a 5+, they're ignored. So you've got the Malbeth save. Very, very good. Very, very useful, considering you are going to be taking wounds in this army, because most of your stuff is quite low defense. It could also be useful on the way in against nullify 33% of your opponent's shooting. And then friendly cam done models within 6 inches. It's very situational, but I think it's still potentially useful, but it won't be used all the time, but just occasionally. You'll get 4 turns where you can potentially have this this save. So I'm just going to have to cough a moment. Just at the end of a cold at the moment, apologies. So, now most people with this list don't think you should be taking Warriors of Khandun because they are expensive. Because you're paying 9 points for them and 10 if you give them a spear. They come with armor, shield, and a hand weapon. Strength 4. They also have better courage than the orcs in the list. And they get a +1 to wound against heroes. And they can go up to fight 4 as well when they're charging. Now, something to consider is Aldrak has this really lovely special rule, which is friendly Khandun models must reroll failed courage tests. Now, if you took only orcs in this list, if you were to face any terror-causing army or any big terror-causing thing and you want to charge, you're going to be charging using these wonderful 8+ courage orcs, and you're going to be only passing 42% of the time. If they have a Harbinger or some sort of -1, Depths of Moria, if you're thinking of facing the real top-end competitive scene of tournaments, that 42%, when you become a 9+, drops to 28%. You would only be passing just over 1/4 of the time. That is not good enough. So I would actually recommend you take Khandun in this. And if you take them as the front line, not the back line, you're also not wasting a point on the spear. You're only spending the 9 points on them. And you can still get a 6-inch banner from the orc. So this is the most cost-effective way of running this. So I would do it. Let's do 6 and 6. Give yourself a banner. And then I would get 2 hill trolls in. Then we've got Fret. If you look at the captain and the Angmar captain, by the way, so the only difference you're really getting is you're getting the +1 to wound against heroes potentially, but you're getting the better courage. You're paying 10 points for better courage. Is it worth it? But you can use this to potentially save the wounds as well for Khandun. So it can maybe protect him in that regard. Khandun models must reroll fails as well. 10 points seems a lot for that 1 courage and the 1 intelligence, but the 1 intelligence as well will be really useful for you in some scenarios. I would take the captain, and then we try and build these warbands out. So I think we go a very similar route of 6 of them, and not warriors of Khandun. We want the orcs now. If we just reduce this a little bit, though, if I go down to 4 and 4, because this is the warband that doesn't need to be protected quite as much, we can probably get an Angmar Warg Rider in there, and let's get 3 trackers in there to get you some bows. You could even consider doing that in this warband as well. But I think we're building this quite nicely as it is. So if we get, let's go again, let's go 5 of them this time. And then we'll go orc spears. Another 2 trackers in. What are we looking for points? We've got 24 points actually, so you could get 2 Warg Riders in there. Now you look at that list. This is 700 points. You've got 42 models. When you're charging, you're a fight 4 army. you've got three major threats that are all impacted by the banner here. So you've got Aldrak that can have a spear behind him. He's going to be 4 dice plus a banner 5 dice. You've got the Hill Troll 3 dice with a reroll and a banner 5 dice each as well. All of them fight 7 when charging. You've got 3 heroic combats potentially from Aldrak. You've got the Carndom front line that are pretty decent on courage. So 7 plus courage, they're passing 58% of the time. And if they fail, they get another go at it. So you've got a 58% chance of a 58% chance. So if you think 42% of the chance you fail, you've got a 58% chance of that 42 that should then pass, which is what, about 24%, 25%. So you're looking at, you should be passing about 80% of your courage tests when they've not got a Harbinger. If there is a Harbinger nearby, of course, that drops significantly. It's more like 60%. I think it's about 64%, something like that. But still, that's pretty good. So there we go. So Warriors of Carndom on the front. Keeps them as cheap as they can, being only 9 points. You've got your cost-effective orcs behind them, 3 trackers to threaten stuff. You've got some Wag Riders to give you some mobility as well. You could maybe get a few more of those in if you were going to like 750 points. But I think this is pretty ideal for 700 points. It's exactly what you want. 6 might, 3 combats. He can resolve to protect Aldrak if you need as well. You've got heroic move caddy here. You could drop one of the Hill Trolls, get an extra captain in, fill his warband and get to about 750 points as well. Loads of options with Carndom. I think it's a great little list that is, it's got a lot of hitting power, a lot of threat, and it'll be fun. It looks good on the table as well. So yeah, back to you then with the Iron Hills. So let's have a look at that, because Iron Hills is a very difficult one to build for, because you've got very limited choices with points. So you take Dane, you're going to take him with the Warball, I imagine. In terms of Mirren and Dra, so Mirren is the +1 to wound against the evil races, pretty much. He's got a shield. He's only 2 attacks, though. His mites now, he's no longer 3/1/1, now 2/2/2. And then you've got Dra, who's got the 2 shots a turn. Only hitting on a 4, though, so you're only likely to get 1 hit a turn. And only 2 might. Got heroic accuracy. He's got heroic strike, but he's only coming from fight 5. If you're going into a good versus evil game, that'd make more sense because you're more likely to be facing that. But then your other options in the list are not amazing. You've got Iron Hills Captain you can take with the Chariot, but I've faced that, and the Chariot is quite easy to deal with and take out. The Dwarf King in this list can't even take throwing weapons. That's not great either. But they do give you a bit more flavour taking Mirren and Dra. But you can't take one without the other. I'd say Mirren is more useful. It's only a dwarf, but it's only 18-inch range as well. He's only hitting half the time. If you move him, he's hitting on 5s. It's not great. Is it better than Iron Hills Captain? So at least you're getting a Master of Battle with him. And you're getting Shield Wall. The higher... Not they're all defense 8, aren't they, I suppose. Dane also gets a Master of Battle in this list anyway. Yeah, it's not a great army. What points level were you looking at? So you'll have to let me know in the chat if you had a particular points level in mind. I think if I was just building with just these in mind at the moment, because that is 325 points, maybe I'd run it up to about 600 and build it that way. You'd have 7 might on the board. Dane is pretty awesome. Get a couple of Goat Riders to give you some mobility. Get some Iron Hills Warriors in there. I don't think you need the Mattocks. Oh, high points. Ah, right. How high we're talking? Are you thinking more like 1,000 points, something like that? Or 800? If you were going really high, I would take the chariot. And I would just make sure you keep Dane right next to it to protect it, basically. Take a few goat riders as well to make sure they can keep up with it and charge alongside it. 700-800, okay. Do you really want Mirren and Dra in there? Is that an absolute prerequisite, or are you happy if I don't include them? If you do take something like, oh, it's not a prerequisite, okay, no worries. I've just gone over there. Let's knock a goat out. Seems very, very low, doesn't it? I don't think you could afford to do it without an extra captain in there for some extra turns of heroic moves. So I think you maybe need to be looking at 850 for that to work. Again, I'm just struggling on the points. Knock that down to 6. Yeah, the points are always... I've tried building this before and it's so annoying. There we go. The game plan there would be your Iron Hills Captain Chariot needs to do a lot of damage for you. You keep Dane and the Goat Riders absolutely right next to it. These Iron Hills with the banner and these are meant to come together with the captain and try and stay as nearby as they can, call heroic moves and just get in the way, survive, and they'll do some damage as well with their strength 4. Crossbows to sit on objectives and cause a bit of a... Just try and encourage your opponent not to flank at the risk of them getting hit by that. But the game plan is the chariot there. So you've got 3 Master of Battles on the field, which is good. That helps deal with the fact you've only got 7 might on the board. But the actual chariot itself, I can't show you on here, but I believe it does 2 strength 6 hits, is it? You might have to correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe it's 3. But it comes with some good stuff. You've also got a repeater bolt thrower on it as well, which is real nice. Sadly, without swift reload, I don't think. But that would kind of be the play if you're doing it that way. If we went Mirren and Dra now, same might, but we should be able to get your models up more. Quite happy with those warbands up there, I think. My only concern would be if you came up against your own D7 army. Maybe it is worth taking at least a couple of Mattocks. I maybe wouldn't take them in the banner warband because you don't want that warband to be broken down, but I'd maybe take just a couple of Mattocks so you've got something if you do come up against something like that. And they're still D6. I'd just take a few perhaps. Something like that. And then get the crossbows in there. And essentially I just want to copy that warband over, but I can't because they're unique characters. And we'll see what points that finishes us out on. I imagine it's going to be around the 800 mark, which is where I wanted for you. There you go, dead on 800, but I'm 1 model short on what I wanted with the crossbows, sadly. But there you go, mate. That should work pretty well for you, I think. It's very well balanced. You've got 7 might still on the board. You've still got the Master of Battle. He's mounted with some Goat Riders. That's your hitting power. You've still got these couple of Matics just in case you really did come up against another D7 shield wall. The main warband with the banner is heavily protected. You've got another 12 that can go inside that as well. All these warbands can operate by themselves. You've got a little bit of shooting threat. Even in something like Divide and Conquer, you'd have shooting from different angles then at least. They can hold objectives and do little things for you. 39 models, considering how tough these are to get through. Pretty damn good. I think that could do well. That'd be really frustrating to play against. It'd be difficult to break down if you play it well. Just be careful not to overextend with Dane and the Goats. I know Dane's amazing, but he can still get dragged down. But yeah, I'm not overly impressed with Dra. I think Mirren's decent, but Dra's... If it was a 3+ shoot value, I'd be a bit more enthusiastic. But yeah, what do you think of that, Jan? And also, while he's just responding to that, anyone else got any suggestions there? I've actually just managed to catch up and come to the end of what everyone was suggesting. So let me know if you want me to look at a particular list, and also tell me what points level you want me to look at. I'll just wait a moment just to see if anyone's typing for something to come through. Yeah, no worries. Yeah, that's glad you like it. I'd try both. I think the Chariot is pretty decent and it can do a lot. It just needs to be played very carefully. You'd have to have a lot of practice games with it to fully master it and get the most out of it. But I think when it goes well, you'll really enjoy it, and it'll also be a bit of a shock for your opponent. You turn up to a game at tournaments, they won't be expecting it. They won't be used to facing something like that. It's a very different sort of play style. So yeah, good luck with it. Let me know if either list is good for you. Lacadam, hello, good evening. A Gandalf Pelennor list. Yeah, it's difficult, isn't it? I've tried to do quite a lot of that as well myself. So let's have a look for you. Is there any others that you were really key to have included? Anything else? Because you've got such a big selection of heroes. I tried to build it with generally a more fiefdoms flavour, but when I have been building it, I've been finding myself going towards Minas Tirith because they're just better than the fiefdoms, sadly now, for less value, for less cost. You go with Gandalf, take him with Shadowfax and Pippin, it becomes amazing. 4 might. 2 free combats, you just have to dismount Pippin, of course, to make the most of his, but very, very useful. Irolas, I agree with that choice, absolutely. Angbor is very good in this edition now. I don't use him for the March, if I'm honest. I don't think it's a good use of his might points, only because he's only got 2. If he had 3, fine. But the fact he has to 2-hand and he's only D5, you generally need to kind of make sure you're winning the fights with him. In which case, I like to save his might for strikes and winning the fight for the dual roll. But yes, let's get Angbor in there because I do love a bit of Angbor. Much better now than he used to be with the Mighty Blow, and the extra fate point now means he's a bit more survivable than he once was. But yeah, I never use him for his March. I don't know if you actually need March in this list, if I'm honest. Because you've got Gandalf with Blinding Light, you can get to your opponent without taking too much damage. I know for objective play, could be useful, but the fact you've got a wizard and 3 heroic combats, even if they get objectives before you, you can usually play it into them and use your magic and your free combats to take stuff back off them anyway. So that never concerned me too much. You also don't need to be as concerned about taking lower defense troops here, because Gandalf can give you a Blinding Light if you really need it as well. So for a bit of theme, and they're quite cheap as well, a couple of clansmen, worth taking. I think we take a couple of men-at-arms to make sure we're backing those guys up. So if you take 6 men-at-arms, that gives 2 behind Angbor, 2 behind each of the clansmen. And let's leave that warband for now. If we do Gandalf, I think with Gandalf we can go for the... depends really. So a bit of a decision you've got to make is where's your hitting power coming from? So Irolas, I think this warband builds itself. You want to build 6 with longbows, 6 with spears. It's your little hit squad. You can move 3 inches up the board at a time. You should be getting, if you do that, you're hitting on 5. You should get 2 hits a turn. Strength 3, you may be getting 1 kill a turn. It's a nice little bonus for you. Once you get up to your opponent, you've got a bodyguard, fearless little squad. He's got heroic defense, +1 to wound. They can outperform their points value. Pretty damn good. The problem you've got with this list is where's your banner coming from? Do you go for an actual banner? Or do you take one of the hero banners? But then if you're taking these heroes already, and because of how expensive Gandalf is, if you take Halbarad or you take Gandalf, Gamling to give you the 6-inch banners, you're running out of points quickly. So I think you have to go for just a normal banner in this list, in which case that's the warband that you want to keep relatively protected. But then you're losing hitting power. You've got a bit of hitting power here, a bit of hitting power here. So I think you want to get quite a few knights as well. So if we build this warband with shields, and then we do some shields and spear, give them one with not a Knight of Dol-Amroth. We don't go near them because they've been ruined, sadly, despite how beautiful they are. And then we've got some Knights of Minas Tirith. I'd go quite heavy on these, personally. And then you've got 24 points left. I would then go back down to Angbor's warband, get myself a couple of Black Root Vale. So if we look at that list now, you have a 44 model army. Everything is fight 4 or better, except for the 3 Black Root Vale. You've got 4 free heroic combats. You have an incredible caster. He can also protect your heroes and troops. He's a major threat, gives you an answer. He's a complete toolbox, gives you an answer to absolutely everything. If you look at Gandalf's profile on here, Blinding Light protecting you from shooting. You can Terrifying Aura himself and others. You've got a Transfix in there. Sadly, he doesn't have Compel. Fortify Spirit to help himself be better against magic, but he already has Pippin giving him resistance. You've got Strength and Will as well to help them as well. Banishment against spirits like the Balrog, for instance, which is very common. Sorcerous Blast to knock stuff prone. Staff is Broken to deal with other casters like Saruman in the Army of the White Hand. He gives you an answer to everything. So I do think Gandalf is amazing to run. Now, because you get Pippin in the list as well, so Pippin, it says here, gives Gandalf resistant to magic, but it also allows him to re-roll 1s when making strikes and can spend Pippin's Might, Will and Fate as if they were his own. Personal tactic for you, Lakadam, if you're going to use this list in Gandalf. The very first time you cast something on more than just his free one. So when you're approaching the enemy, spend just your free dice to cast Terrifying Aura, maybe Fortify Spirit on himself as well, or one of the heroes, something like that. Blinding Light if you need. When you actually want to cast something, so like a Banishment, Sorcerous Blast, spend Pippin's Will plus your free one, then charge into combat, call an actual heroic combat using Pippin's Might, or you channel with Pippin's Might and use his Will to cast it, or use the free one to cast it. But if you call a combat using his actual point of might, after the combat's gone off and after you've killed the guy in combat and you're moving on, drop Pippin off somewhere where he's going to be useful and able to get into a heroic combat the next turn, maybe teaming up with Irolas or Angbor. Drop him off. You've used his Will by that point. You've used his Might by that point. Unless you're facing a caster on the other side that has got that is a bit of a threat to you and you need your resistant to magic, drop Pippin off, save him for next turn, send Gandalf off into another fight after that combat, and then Pippin, the next turn, if you win a move off or you've set it up correctly or you put him in a good place, you can team him up with someone like Angbor or even Gandalf again. He can go in and call his free heroic combat, and that's how you make the most of his free heroic combat. Your other alternative is you wait till near the end of the game and use Gandalf's free combat to slingshot him somewhere to drop him on an objective, and then he can come back the next turn. It also keeps him out of the fight, so you've got him casting for the next turn. Yeah, I think this is kind of the way to go with it. I think Irolas is an excellent little warband to take. Gandalf's a really good pick. Yeah, there you go, Lakadam. Yeah, just call a heroic combat using Pippin's might. Drop him off after the heroic combat's gone off. Get Gandalf into another fight. Drop Pippin off and leave him ready for next turn to use him as a free heroic combat. Eowyn is also a very, very good choice. So going on to what Hunsler's saying here as well, building in a Rohan contingent is very, very strong in this list. I don't own any Rohan, otherwise I would. I only have fiefdoms and Gondor. I don't have Army of the Dead or anything either, but I do think there is a lot of value in running Gandalf, Theoden, and Dernhelm, if I can find. Does she come under? That's Eowyn. Where's Dernhelm? Am I being very dumb here, guys? Why can't I see Dernhelm? Oh, it comes with merit. Right, okay, they've just called it that now. Okay. Because you can do the same with Eowyn and Merry, you see. You can call a heroic combat with her, drop Merry off somewhere, and then you can make the most of his free combat in the following turn. Because you're putting those 3 heroes in there, but it's essentially 5 heroes and 5 free combats, 480 points. You then do leave yourself 320 points to build your troops. You're going to be a lot lower on model count. I think if you build this, you're building to 850, not 800. I don't think it works there. However, I do really like Theoden's Herogrim rule. That is an incredible rule that if they're at a tied fight value, Theoden wins. Now, of course, he's only fight 5, but if you get him in with Gandalf, who's fight 6, can do some more. If you were going at like 1,000 points, you could even take someone like Imrahil in this list or Aragorn. They're fight 7. Team them up with Theoden and then use his Herogrim. Yeah, no worries, Corey. All good, mate. But hope you liked the list I put together. It was 700. I don't know if that was the points you wanted, but I think that's the kind of optimal. I think somewhere between 5 and 700 is a really good list for Candom. Nothing more than that. You don't have enough answers to all the big stuff you're going to see. But then coming back to Aimar now then, with the 500-point Khazad-dûm. I faced this a few times recently. I also did not win a tournament because of a 500-point Khazad-dûm list. It's very, very good. Very, very competitive. It's definitely top-tier meta. Mainly because of its special rules. One of which is I'm okay with. One of which shouldn't be there. So, Stubbornness of Dwarves getting you the reroll in the combat when you're outnumbered. In the number of dice that have been rolled. I'm okay with that rule. They don't have space supports. I get it, what they were trying to do there. I'm fine with that. I think that's okay. I think the mirrors don't generally have a massive effect on the game because they're so easy to deactivate, which I have done in every single game I've faced them. But it's this that bothers me. They didn't need to give them Dominant 2 because this army is already a horde. It's built in a way to allow you to be a horde. So why have you given them Dominant 2 on models that are already extremely hard to shift? I don't think they needed to do that. So, if we're building for 500, I think Durin is a bit too expensive for 500. I think you go for the Dwarf King with throwing weapons as your leader. I'd take multiple Dwarf Kings, personally. And I really like the Shield Bearer. Slightly controversial pick, but the ability to get a free heroic combat is always really useful, and it's basically a captain model just with one less might point and one less fate point. I'm kind of all right with that for the chance of getting a free combat, and even though he has to go towards his general when he wins it, the other things in the fight don't. They don't have to. So, yeah, let's build it based on that. So, I think you want at least a couple Khazad Guard. mostly dwarf warriors. Well, not mostly dwarf warriors, but some dwarf warriors. A couple of Iron Guard. And then get yourself some rangers. So 3 rangers in there. Have a not exact same warband, but we'll do something similar. I'll try and put 3 dwarf longbows in all warbands if I can. I like the Iron Guards to get the throwing weapons, and I might actually take out the Khazad Guard, you know. I think I'd go with more Iron Guard if I'm honest. So let's try that. 4 of them in there. And four in there as well. The reason I like the Iron Guard as well, they're still strength 4. They can still do some damage for you. 28 models, it still seems a bit low. I've built this in a bit of a weird way. It's not how you'd see most people build it. So yeah, we could put in a Khazad Guard into that warband for him. And it gives you 9 points to get you another warrior, maybe. If you look at that list, it's 30 models, 500 points. You've got 9 bows, which are hitting on 3s and strength 3. It's very, very strong. I've got 6 throwing weapons in there from the 2 kings and the guard. Only 5 might, which doesn't look a lot. But for 500 points, most people have only got 6 might anyway. So 5 might's okay, but you've got potential freedom. Correctly, if you put the dwarf shield bearer in a fight with get that kill, they can then fly into other stuff and trap. It also helps with your mobility to be able to slingshot things off. You've got fight 6, fight 6, fight 5. You've got another fight 5 there as well. That is a very, very tough list to deal with and face. And I've come up against something similar, just without the shield bearer. They just took a captain. I think something like that would do rather well. Anyway, hopefully that helps you there. Anyone? Any other list suggestions from anyone there? I'm probably going to finish this stream in probably about 10 minutes. I'm working tomorrow, sadly, but any final list suggestions that you'd like me to go through? While I'm waiting for anyone to type that, I will just show you what I'm taking to a tournament this weekend. So this weekend, if you don't know already, I've got my YouTube podcast where I'm doing tournament reviews. So as I attend tournaments, I'll give you a breakdown of my list and my intentions on how I was going to play. And then at the end of the tournament, I'll actually unfolded. Was my strategy correct? Is there anything I'd change with the list? What have I learned from? So I've just got your connection is unstable message. Hoping you can all hear me okay, can you? Can you still hear me okay? See the screen? Okay, it's gone away. Hopefully you can. So yeah, I'll be talking through what I've learned from the tournament, what would I change in the list, that sort of thing. Thank you. So I'll show you it quickly here. So it's only a 500 point event. It is a team event as well. I'm captaining a team from Leeds, the 4 of us. There's Hunsler that's in here at the moment. He's also going with me as part of my team. It's 500 points. And what I'm doing is I'm taking Army of Gundabad, but I'm going to build it in a very interesting way, which is without any of the big hitters. They are, I don't know why I've added these. I'm going to duplicate them in a moment anyway. I'm building it a very asymmetric way as well, where I've got more shields and spears, which I think is how you should always build. Build Gundabad. And then we get a Goblin Mercenary Captain with 4 mercs in it. So that is the list. And if you compare that to the list I just showed you, which was the 30 model Khazad list, Khazad at 500 win big survivable heroes with high defense. These Gundabad captains are D7. I've got a high model count 31, despite the fact it's pretty elite. These are all fight 4, strength 4, D6 models. I've got 6 2 attack, 8-inch move berserkers with extremely high courage for holding objectives. It gives me a lot of mobility. The 2-handed weapon means they can hit at strength 6 if they win fights. Strength 4 with a +1. And then I've got 2 warbats for extra mobility. The pluck rule for big heroes. And I've got a Goblin Merc Captain giving me a bit of extra might. He can also ambush on the board with 4 mercenaries and hold an objective for me. It feels it should be a pretty well-rounded list. I'm lacking a big hero. I'm lacking the ability to deal with a big hero unless they're on foot. But yeah, this is what I'm taking to the team event this weekend. Looking forward to it, hoping to do well with the team. And if you're interested to see how I got on with this and a bit more about the team, I'm hoping to get everyone interviewed and telling us about their list and how the tournament went. It's going to be me and my 3 friends on the Birdie's World Spotify podcast. So if you want to check that one out, it's called Birdie's World Tournament Log, I believe, is what I called it. Forgetting my own name for what I called it. But if you look that up, they're going to be BHL 100 event the weekend after in Lincoln, one of Harry Parkill's excellent events. Taking Gundabad to that as well at 850 points. So yeah, if you're interested in that, follow that. Otherwise, I think I'll end it there, guys. I've been on almost 3 hours. Hope you've all enjoyed it. Thanks for all the engagement that I've had. And if you've enjoyed it, like, subscribe. If you really liked it, I've got Patreon as well. You can always subscribe to me on there. There's a few people that have subscribed to me recently. I really appreciate that support. It encourages me to keep up with all this content that I'm trying to put together for you all. And yeah, we will leave it there. Hope you all have a nice week. Take care.